And with that, we're going to throw it over to Palmer with his run of Earthlock. Let's give him a big round of applause, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. You're all too kind. Before we get started, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Professor Palmer. Behind me on the couch, I have Lily Grimm. And actually on the call with me, I have the developers of this game, Snowcastle. Say what's up, guys.
Hello, hello. My name is Nick. I am the marketing guy at Snowcastle Games. It's currently 4:30 in the morning, so we had a little sleepover here preparing for the run.
Yeah, I'm Torbjorn, lead animator at Snowcastle.
I'm Nicola, one of the game designers on Snowcastle.
And I'm Øystein. I'm one of the other game designers.
Brilliant, brilliant. All right, without further ado, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I'll explain things as we go. Are you guys ready on time? All right, I'll count it down. I'll say 3, 2, 1, go. So 3, 2, 1, go. Now this is Earthlock, as you can so obviously tell. Now there's actually a small chance we'll have to watch the cutscene here. I actually figured it out. Oh, we don't have to. Brilliant. That's the first skip. It's frame perfect. Clap. Thank you so much. I actually have no idea why we have to sometimes watch the cutscene. I don't know if you guys do either, but it is. It seems to be a weird PS4 interaction.
We're looking around confused. We don't know why it skipped or why it didn't.
Yeah,
It's skippable all the time.
it's a speed tech. It's speed tech. So right off the bat, this is going to be combat in this game. As the first thing you're going to notice is that it is pretty quick paced, and the reason for that is that in this version of the game, which I'll touch on the different versions, you can actually fast forward the combat. You can put it on double speed, which is going to be used in literally every fight in the game because it creates an opportunity for us to have much faster fights, much faster animations, things like that. What you're going to see here, no, this is just a few tutorials, but this one right here, you notice I prompted that, and once that becomes more relevant, here in a little bit, I will comment on that. But the first thing that you should mention while we're just mashing some dialogue and getting out of this tutorial is the differences in the game. Some of you might be familiar watching at home with Earthlock Festival of Magic. Now this is not that game. This is Earthlock, which is a much prettier, much faster speedrun-wise, and a little bit more refined game. Now Snowcastle, if you guys want to talk about some of the differences or some of the improvements that are made, you guys are more than welcome to.
One of the major things that have gone into the newer version that is noticeable would probably be the animations that have gone in. And on top of that, we've got anything from craftable weapons and selling of items to overworld abilities and treasure hunting in the game. There's really a lot that's gone into the upgrade of the game over 13 months after the initial release of Festival of Magic, actually. We've also worked on some cutscenes as well. Creatures, NPCs, story additions, improved NPC AI, even kitten plants, which you'll probably, I don't know if you're showing that later or not.
Absolutely not.
Well, some like them.
Yeah, no, they're good.
More or less, this is the biggest one.
Yeah, I'll tell you the ones I noticed right away, and it's the speed up in battle is significant. There are actually a few things that I'm going to touch on once we get to the tournament sections of the game that are significantly better. Bosses actually were moved around a tad, so there is one fight that's terribly difficult in Festival of Magic, and thankfully it kind of got rearranged a little bit to where you have to deal with her later. But once we get to her, I will mention it. The first thing I'm going to talk about here is how battles start. I actually just found out yesterday you can be Benjo here, so that's pretty neat. But battles in this game, you're going to see the number in the bottom left-hand corner. It says 2 currently, and the clock is winding. Now what happens is, whenever you aggro something, the number of enemies that are currently chasing you are going to be indicated by that number. Now the clock that's winding around it, that is going to be when that battle will initiate. However, you can initiate the battle on your own by pressing circle, and that will give everybody on your team the first attack. So it's going to be utilized a ton. The second thing is that you can only have 8 enemies in a battle at once, which is actually really, really hard to deal with. But there are very specific EXP mechanics in this game that I'm going to be utilizing to the best of my ability in order to maximize EXP gain. EXP is everything in this, but as you can see, we took a fight. We will get the first turn. At that point, it's random. As you can see there, Feign Death is your flee animation. It's guaranteed. It's a single input, and it's really nice and refined. I like that a lot. Benjo's death animation is a little humorous, but it's really nice to be able to run away from stuff without, you know, risking losing money or having it be, you know, randomly chanced and things like that. So a lot of times you're going to see me interact and force a fight by pressing circle, like I previously mentioned, and then immediately running away. What's another thing? I guess I'll talk about the puzzle here for a second. The puzzles are, as you're seeing here, only Eamon is capable of doing it. Every character has like a unique ability to an extent, and I'll touch each on theirs as they're being utilized. But this is Eamon's. As you can see with this wheel, you can change characters based on who you have. So I'll stay on Eamon just because I need him in order to be able to do this puzzle here. But I really like this game's puzzles because I'm really terrible at puzzles, and these are a little bit more straightforward. Even someone like myself has the grasp of how I'm supposed to complete them. There's a lot of games where the puzzles, I've had to deal with random encounters and figuring out the puzzle at the same time, and I go the wrong direction and I die and whatnot. But this game has a clever usage of puzzles, the hardest one being the Tower of Dur, which we will be skipping later on. But it is very straightforward. It's not super difficult, but there is still a lot of like reward for playing around with things in order to lower different gates to unlock treasures that are otherwise hidden and things like that. So I want to be the first one to thank you guys for not making these puzzles too hard, because I'm terrible at them. So right here we're going to have the first boss in the game, and don't blink or you'll miss it because it's exceptionally fast. You'll notice that I picked up a couple different chests along the way, and the reason I did that is because we need 6 fire spuds minimum on Benjo. Worst case scenario, Benjo needs all 6 of them. That hardly ever happens. But the fire spuds, you fire out of your potato cannon as opposed to regular spuds. And Benjo will use them while I keep Eamon in his other stance. Now the difference in stances I'll talk about in a little bit. Oh, perfect. So right off the bat we got the fire debuff, and that's ideal. It makes this fight go significantly faster. And we hopefully want to get one more steal with Eamon before the fight is over. Perfect. That's the first boss in the game. Hopefully all the fights in this game go as quickly. If they're not, that means I'm doing something wrong. So don't be afraid to call me out on it with whether it be your donations or what have you. But speaking of donations, I have a little bit of mashing to do. So Casa, if you have a couple, feel free to throw them my way.
We most certainly do. We have a $10 donation from Trevor that says, "Thanks for the great marathon so far all. Never seen Earthlock before, but it seems cool." We also have a $50 anonymous donation. Thank you very much. And a $25 donation from Osmodec that says, "You've got this, Palmer. Get that sub 3.
Let's not get carried away here. A sub 3 is my goal for this game, especially over the past couple weeks. I've been grinding it out and routing it a little bit more, but I will allow Snowcastle, if you guys want to talk a little bit about like the story so far. I feel like you might know a little bit more than I do at this point, so take it away, guys.
Well, yeah, so you're currently Eamon, who's a desert scavenger out gathering some beetles for his sick uncle. Because everyone knows beetle soup is the best medicine. Yeah, just taking care of your uncle, looking for treasure, nothing out of the ordinary.
Was there anything cut from the original game that was changed in this sequence?
There's a bunch of cutscenes here actually. That's like those are pretty new. Like the coughing and everything. I don't think that was in the original game.
No.
Because we added a bunch of new gestures for like all the characters. And Eamon there stirring in the pot. You barely got to see it because it's a speed run, but there's a bunch of new stuff and sleeping animation and everything. So we added a bunch of new cutscenes and
that room
emotes.
upstairs.
Oh, with the room new as well?
Yeah, the entire upper floor of Benjo's house is new.
Oh yeah, that's pretty. So there's a there's a place I passed right by our house that apparently is closed, and this lady makes amazing potions. Now, because I've only ever done like speed runs where I try not to bother, with with extra stuff. Does that door ever open?
Unfortunately, it does not. No. She.
Exposed.
There are rumors though. At night, if you go by and this might even, yeah, I don't know. I think it might open at some point.
It opens in the second game.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe, yeah.
So you can see how they nod, how this guy is just pretending to fire a gun. All that is new in the new Earthlock game, the extended edition. It's pretty much, it's a bit more lively than it was before. I think before everyone just like stood around and looked at each other, if I'm not wrong. Just like staring blankly into space.
Well,
So-
right here is another interesting mechanic you're going to notice. I'm going to switch to Nart, and like Eamon's ability to solve puzzles, Nart has the ability to eat wild plants. He just walks up and picks it out of the dirt and receives beneficial status effects as a result. The speed boost, I like to think, is like kind of like a coffee plant. It puts him into a little bit faster of an animation. It's called a speedy bean, which is pretty much what I've been drinking since the moment I got here. We are moving along. It's actually, I timed it, as long as all 4 of those plants spawn, there's this weird interaction where sometimes one of them or multiples don't spawn. As long as you get them all, it's actually faster, but if 2 are missing, then it's slower. If there's 3, then you just about break even. But currently, we're on a mission to go find somebody in this swamp, right? This little pig bunny here, his name is Nart. And there is a donation incentive to get him to wear an amazing frog hat. And I also have one right in front of me. So if you guys get that met, I will wear it as well. However, I digress. We obtained something from that first boss you saw me fight. And when we did, we went to go sell it, because that's what scavengers do. And, dang it. Anyways, we went to go sell it, and Nart approached us, and he says that, he knows a place where we can get a lot more for it, and it'll be of impact because it's like a historical society that maintains and keeps those kinds of things. He said, first, though, you have to take me there because I'm not willing to fight all these things. I'm not strong enough, so will you assist me? To which we reply, yes. And first, before we head out to Suvia, which is where our party is currently focused on, we have to rescue Olia, who you're going to see make her first appearance right here. Unfortunately, she's not super utilized in the run. However, in the spots that she is significantly important. She has a really cool functionality, and I'll kind of explain her stances as they take place right now. So the first thing you're going to notice is that Nart is casting an attack buff. That's one of his 2 stances. He has one stance that heals and one that buffs, basically. Whereas Eamon, on the other hand, has a ranged stance and a melee stance. Olia has a... oh, that sucks. Olia has a taunt-based stance and a melee stance. Now, her melee one has a couple of different types of damage abilities, slashing and striking, I believe, right now. And then her other stance, however, is a taunt stance, where she won't actually attack anything on her own. What she does is she'll taunt and force that enemy to fight her. And when that takes place, she will always respond with a counterattack, so long as it is a melee, and that doesn't work against ranged targets. But we will use her to funnel focus onto her and just keep her propped up. And she chews some enemies up pretty early on, and we're going to use her for the next boss, but it's going to be a little bit before we see that. Right away, I'm doing another really small puzzle. And at the same time, I talked to that lady as soon as I came into the swamp. She gave me a side quest. It's actually the only side quest we're going to do in the entire game. Sorry about that, Snow Castle. But she gives us 500 EXP, which is, it takes like no time to do it, as we'll be picking up all the chests in this next area anyways. So the 500 EXP is worth its weight in gold. EXP in this game being the most, above all, the most important resource that exists. The level cap in this game is level 20, and which sounds pretty low, is because it is. The difficulty curve from one level to another is immense, and I like to think that Snow Castle did that because they wanted the game to be challenging, and instead of just getting too strong too early and mowing over everything in your path, they wanted to give you the opportunity to actually have to develop strategy and have every boss fight be something that you do multiple times and have to figure out. Fortunately, I can actually ask them if that's what they intended to do. So I really made a strong case for it. So if you guys could please agree with it, that would be amazing.
That is actually correct, yeah. Which we've received a lot of feedback that people do like to grind and do like to be overpowered. So might not have been the best decision, but the intent was to let the players struggle a bit.
And one thing that I guess you don't plan on dying, so you won't get to see in the speed run, but Frogboy comes out and gives you some strategy tips if you do end up failing. So there are different ways to solve each boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is, ideally, we never want to have to see Frogboy give us tips. If we do, that means I screwed something up. There's only one boss in this whole game, actually there's probably two, that I'm terrified of. I'm sure Snowcastle is well aware of which one that is. But up until this point, we're not facing anything too difficult. Now, one thing I want to mention here is this fight and the fight in the next room we are obviously taking on purpose. We need to be leveled up on Eamon and Nart in order to do this next fight with 2 extra talent tiles. Now, the talent tutorial was something we saw just in the beginning, but we skipped through it because it's very fast. And I'm going to explain that to you as soon as we level up here. But this is actually a new strat. I figured out it's much faster to use Olya in this next fight as there's 2 melee enemies. So we're going to do that. But one thing I need to mention is bonds. And the reason that I need these guys to reach a certain amount of EXP before a certain point is because they get... you can see Nart and Eamon, they have that blue bar below them. And when that happens, that means that those characters are bonded. Jeez, she's a monster, bro. She's nuts. That means they're bonded. And when they're bonded, they have access to a conjoined, shared kind of special ability. Treat it like a tank, right? The tank is full when that bar is blue. As you get higher bond level, you're going to see there be multiple uses in that tank. And that's important as we get later on. Now, one of the biggest things, though, that I need to mention is that everybody gets these skill attributes for being however bonded they are with each other. So a level 5 bond between Eamon and Nart is going to benefit different things and different valued status debuffs and bonuses and stuff like that than someone as opposed to like Eamon and Olya. And I'm going to use a very, very specific lineup of bonds. Early on, we're going to use Eamon and Nart just because, you know, it's whatever. That's what we have right now. But we are going to use the greatest character in the entire game later. She's going to be the most important, and we have to treat her a very specific way. And if we don't, then the run is dead. So let's just hope that I remember to do that. Otherwise, Vooligen's going to be a little bit disappointed in me when I'm an hour over estimate. Just kidding. Just kidding, guys. I'm going to make sure I put everybody in the correct stance here because I didn't save, which I'm going to be doing a lot of saving. This fight doesn't worry me too much, but because now that I've said that, it's going to worry me a lot. But this fight is really neat. You guys posted on Twitter, Snowcastle, the kind of like how this character's art it came to be. It's pretty neat. All right.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have any of the original artists here because there's only so many limited people who want to stay up this late. but yeah, it went through some different phases of development, and I think it turned out quite well.
Well, I think it looks dope. Fortunately, you know, actually, this fight used to give me a whole lot of grief until I went with this Oleus strategy that I'm using now. But it's a hard fight, and it happens early, and it kind of catches you by surprise, as many of the fights in this game do. But that went perfect, actually. That went. I used the potion stronger than I needed to, but I wanted to make sure that we were safe. And now we get to introduce Frogboy, who I think is pretty much everybody's favorite character, aside from maybe a character we'll touch on here in a little bit. But Frogboy has, even though he's not a playable character, he's got like this entire life and personality all of his own. And his hat right there is actually the donation incentive coming up that to have Nart wear a hat just like his. And I have one right in front of me. So again, if that donation incentive gets met, I'll put mine on as well. So Casa, where are we at on that incentive?
All of your incentives have been met, actually.
Well, don't sound so excited, guys. Thank you, guys. Oh, my God. Thank you. You guys you're all too kind. Did that mess up anything here? No. All right, bet.
That sounded all good. Do we actually have a few moments for a couple donations?
We
here?
do. Take it away, man.
Alrighty, so we have a $5 donation from Sand Knight that says, "Hey there, RPG Limit Break, Sand Knight here. Have to donate during my boys' run. Palmer, thank you for everything this year. You are a great man. Now that I'm done with the fluffy stuff, wish you some Earthlock. Got it?"
Oh, puns.
We also have a $10 donation from Perk. It says, "Hey Prof, show us some sweet OP Taika action. Glad to see Earthlock in a marathon. Good luck with the run."
Thank you so much, all of you guys. It's a pleasure to be here at 87K. Oh man, I don't know if you guys remember what happened last year when we got this close to 100,000, but you know what? Forget about it, actually.
Speaking of 100,000, there actually is a donation here about that. We have a $10 donation from BK Waffles that says, "Does this game have an agonizingly long 100% category? And if it does, can we get Palmer to do it if we get 100,000 by the end of the run?"
You guys really gonna do this to me again? Yeah, all right, I got something for you. If we hit 100K by the end of this run, I will route and finish Earthlock 100%. It's almost done. It'll take, give or take, about 16 hours, I think, most of which is farming, which I'll explain here in a minute. And to sweeten the deal, I'll add Crystal Bearers, all achievements. It's probably a 20-hour Final Fantasy Wii U game, and Thousand Arms 100%, which will probably take like 55 hours or something like that. Not during this marathon, but on my own stream. And the reason I bring those up is because I have them all routed, and I need a reason to do it. So, 100K, guys, you heard it here first. And just to specify, that's 100K from 87,000, not 100K. No, I'm just kidding. 100K total. But just to pick up on where we left off here. You know, I came into this thinking somebody was going to say that, and I was like, I'm going to pick one. And I got nervous, and I said all of them. That's not good. But some things that we've missed here. We have Frog Boy now, who I'll let Snowcastle talk about in a second. But first, I need to touch on the gardening, because it is such a monumental and important part of this game that we're going to do our best to do as little as possible of in the speed run. However, like if you're playing casually as well as the 100% category I just mentioned, you are going to need to get a lot of plants. I think the Platinum Trophy takes 10,000 plants? Which is a lot. But the luxury you have is that you can farm your own ammunition, you farm your own medicine, and all kinds of things like that. There's obviously, you know, caveats to it and ways you have to go about things. But if you have anything, if you are low on money or things like that, it will only ever cost you some time to sit there and get your characters the resources they need. And I really, really like that. And I was hoping, Snowcastle, would you guys touch on where the gardening inspiration came from or why it is the way it is, if you guys are able to?
It started with being able to grow your own ammunition, because that wasn't something we'd seen in games before. And then just being able to do that was kind of lackluster, so we added a bunch of other plants, and then different elemental plants came into the picture, and it kind of just snowballed from there.
Or just grew from there, you could say.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, amazing.
But yeah, the selling of items also came on later in the extended edition, because we realized that it would probably be a game that you would want to be, it's going to be a bad joke, farm later on for money and XP.
Mm-hmm.
So went through a couple of rounds to get it working quite the way we wanted to, and even the watering mechanic wasn't intentional at the beginning of the design of that, but came out of wanting to interact more with the garden and sort of get a sort of a pause from the adventuring aspect to sort of give the player some breathing room from all the combat.
That's interesting. So the watering mechanic, upon conception, it wasn't initially there. It just was a timer that ran, or what?
Just a timer that ran, that when you planted the plant, you'd sort of just, I guess, stand there watching till it came to be.
Well, that is, thank you that you guys added that, because that sounds like it would have been a lot less enjoyable, I'm not going to lie to you. But it is a lot of people, when I play this game or stream it, and people are like, what is this? You know, and they ask, that is like one of their favorite things. I don't know how the feedback on your guys' end is with all the planting and things like that, but it seems like a lot of people that I've spoken with or that have relayed that information to me have a lot of good things to say about the fact that, you know, they can kind of take a break, do a little farming, get their all the resources they need. That way, if they're hard up on cash, they can just, instead of going and buying things or what have you, they can just spend a little bit of time there and get the resources that they need to move on to the next section. So I really like it.
Yeah, we definitely get a lot of positive feedback from the farming mechanic. And even I don't necessarily enjoy farming mechanics in games, but it was a surprising, nice, positive effect to giving a break from the combat when I played for the first time. Because I joined on the team a lot later.
Well, it is one of many things in this game that will go undervalued in the speedrun, I'm afraid. But if you guys do want to pick this game up, absolutely do so. It's like on every console. It's on Switch and PS4, which is what I'm on right now. It's on PC on Steam. I believe it's on the, what am I missing? The Xbox as well. So you have no excuse not to pick it up.
56% off.
56% off. I'm sorry, could you say that again? I couldn't hear you.
56% off!
Oh, man. Thank you so much for that. That was amazing. Well, it is an extremely reasonable price for a game that is this much fun with this much content. So I might be a little biased, but you guys should absolutely consider taking a look at it. But a lot of people will come into the stream, check it out when I'm doing runs of it, and go and play it and come back to me with information. And it's always nice to hear people say, you know, this and that and the other. And they've also, a few people have shared some interesting strats with me on different consoles and things like that. Now, the PS4 and the PC are definitely the fastest load-wise. The Switch has a few different unique things about it I won't really get into, but the load times in that are a little slower than what I'd care to have to deal with. So I run on the PS4 version because it's the most comfortable. But if you guys want to play this game casually, pick it up on any of those and go farm, because not only are there plants that benefit you resource-wise, there's also like just silly plants where you can have like frogs and you can have cats grow on a tree and then they like overrun your whole garden there. It's pretty wild. But one thing I need to mention though is those little frog statues you're seeing. If you touch one and leave, you don't have to save, you just got to touch it. After you've unlocked the Frog Boy's island, you can then warp back to Ramu Island. You receive a full HP heal. You can do your gardening, your shopping, your items, and talent crafting, all that kind of stuff if you need to. And then you can warp right back to where you were, anywhere you've already touched one of those statues. Now you're going to see me utilize it for fast travel, which is really nice to have an ability to fast travel so early on, as well as an ability to instantly heal, so I'm not having to spend the money on or utilize resources if I'm close enough to one of those. But Ramu Island was the place you saw me just go with Frog Boy, where I was doing some gardening, where I was talking about silly $100,000 donations. That was the island, and you can go there at any point from those statues like I mentioned, but it's another one of the things that I've seen from what I've followed, significant amount of change. It looked like you guys battled for a really long time with trying to figure out how you wanted to lay all that out and have it work. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I missed that. What was the last thing you said?
It seems like the Frog Island, the Ramu Island or whatever, seems like a place that went through a lot of ideas and theory crafting before you guys settled on what it looks like now.
Yeah, the first version of it is nowhere similar at all. It's completely different. We've a lot of things in the game has gone through multiple iterations. Even the characters have changed visually and also how they behave in combat and in the overworld.
Yeah, I saw like the original drawings of the that you guys had posted on Twitter or something like that, of the original Ramu Island ideas, and I'm not gonna lie, they were not excellent. Not for speedrunning, I mean. Like everything was very spread out as opposed to as condensed as it is now. And I was like, man, you know how long it would take me to run from one side? That would lose me so much time. Which I'm sure, I'm sure you guys, that's the first thing you guys think of is like, how will this benefit Palmer, right? So.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Of course.
Well, I appreciate that. That's so kind. We do have a little bit of downtime right here. First, I'll let Casa, if you have any donations, feel free to catch us up.
Alrighty, we actually do have a few here. We have a $100 donation from Anonymous, a $10 donation from DMX Goomba that says, what? A $10 donation from Egg Talk, and a $50 donation from Rokilla that says, first time at a limit break, and I'm glad to have met you, Palmer. Good luck, and have a good run. Hashtag thanks for the pizza. We also have a $5 donation from Malamik that says, hashtag thank you for the pizza.
I didn't supply the pizza.
Now
I don't
pass. Oh,
understand.
sorry.
No, you're fine, man.
Now pass the coffee back to the front row.
Not a chance. But yeah, that we are going to be killing these things. As you can see, these are Amory lanterns. We're going to have to deal with them quite a bit here. Throughout the game, you're going to see them make a reoccurring appearance. The one thing they can do to slow you down, they're not dangerous. We don't care if anybody dies here. But the one thing they can do to slow you down is to throw some stuns on your damage dealers. You see I'm casting haste with Nart on Olia because I need her to do damage. She's the strongest right now. Eamon's actually in a spot where he's not super useful yet. Oh, man. And we need Olia to be our main focus. So when Olia gets stunned and you just have Eamon, it slows down these fights a little bit. But the worst thing that's going to happen to you in this puzzle is you're going to forget to either turn one of these dials or you're going to have Nart or somebody die in a fight. It's not the end of the world. But this puzzle is actually the first one that kind of takes some thought. Now, initially when I came in here, I was hoping that I could like just utilize some kind of abuse trick by screaming at that Amory that is in the very, very far right. It's a yellow colored. And Olia here, you'll see, has this ability to whistle. And now when she does that, you have the opportunity to draw enemies towards you. It's kind of like an attracts enemies situation. However, it seems like you guys might have thought about that when you were developing things, because I went over to that fence and screamed, and it seems like he has a line in the sand that he will like absolutely not cross. So I just wanted you guys to know that's like terribly inconveniencing.
Well, we can't make it too easy for you, right?
I mean, well. But right here, you're seeing me utilize things like switching between characters. It goes without saying that Nart is much shorter. So he fits through this little crevice right here, and he goes into things that are small. And Eamon picks up the Amory, and Olia can whistle. Now, Ive and Taika, the characters you saw in the tutorial of the game, we will be revisiting here shortly. But right now, they're not part of us. I won't get too in-depth with their... I won't get too in-depth with their abilities until we are actually utilizing them, but oh man, these Amorys. I guess right now I'll talk a little bit about how I got started speedrunning this game and how I was, kind of introduced myself to Snowcastle. I was looking at the game through a viewer had suggested it to me, technically in one of my chats for a different game I was running, and I took a look at it. I saw that it was this indie developer game. And it looked really dope, turn-based RPGs I really like. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to absolutely try it. Well, I picked it up, and I immediately emailed Snowcastle, and I said, hey, listen, I'm a speedrunner, and I'm interested in this game, and I just wanted to know, I know it's a long shot, but if you guys have any resources or information or things like that you think might benefit me to be able to play this game more quickly, then that would be amazing. And I got an email that didn't say, please leave us alone, so that was... a really good start. But it's funny enough, though, that actually they sent me back some ideas. Now, there's no, like, game-breaking glitches or skips. Not that they suggested, at least. But there are a couple of tricks that make things a little bit faster. I'll showcase them as the run progresses. But for what it's worth, it was, a lot of developers don't want people playing their games and, like, selling them short, basically. They don't want them exposing like, oh, this is a flaw or whatever that we're using to speedrun. And Snowcastle has been incredibly like supportive of the runs. In fact, the tips that the developers have given me over the time that I routed this game and now where the world record is at, it's gone from a 7-hour run to a 3-hour run, and the developer tips easily shaved at least an hour in and of its own of their own help. So I want to thank you guys seriously for that. But there's a lot of stuff I'd still probably be doing wrong if it weren't for your help. But But that brings the question I wanted to ask, like, what is it like having someone speedrun your game? Is that something that's kind of scary because you're worried about, like, flaws being exploited or something of the like? Or does it affect how you might Q&A future games? Or
Well, it's having someone actively trying to break your game is of course kind of scary. We had, before you contacted us, we had an internal competition on how fast we could complete the game, because we were doing the QA testing ourselves, and I think the record was around 15 hours.
sorry.
Your first attempt kind of blew us away, and we was kind of interested in seeing how fast you actually can complete the game, because we didn't even think that below 10 hours was possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's been really fun to watch, but it's also scary to see you running around almost breaking the game.
I have to admit though, we did a lot of QA testing ourselves, and to be honest, there were some bugs I didn't want to report until like after I got a couple of run-throughs just to see if I could like speed through faster before we end up fixing it. So
I'm hurt. My goodness.
won't tell you which ones though.
Yeah. That means they're still there.
Could I ask you though, like, are there any exploits that you have been using that we have fixed up, like removed, like that kind of ruined your speedrun?
No, not to my knowledge. I mean, there's a couple that I've looked at and thought, like, you know, these might be pretty big deals. However, the likelihood of somebody casually finding them, the Switch one being the biggest, I'm sure you guys are familiar with what I'm referring to. That one is the only one where I'm like, oh, it's kind of on the fence of it could like actually bleed over into the casual aspect. But there's nothing I've found besides a couple unfortunate soft locks that have been things that I've been like, wow, okay, this kind of. But as far as patching, there's nothing that you guys have fixed, thank goodness. Unless I find out during this run that something's about to go really terribly.
Surprise patch in the last 24 hours.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That would be not great, I'm not going to lie to you. If Taika is removed or something.
Yeah, we removed Curse. It's...
You guys aren't laughing, but you will be. I promise. Yeah, please don't remove Curse. I'll talk about Curse when I get to it. It deserves its own spiel and explanation, but... I do want to actually ask you guys about Frog Boy. What's kind of the inspiration on that zany guy? Because he seems to be like the game's mascot, and he's like a likable character. I'm wearing the hat. There's skins that reference him and things like that. So what's kind of the backstory on an NPC with just as much creativity and like storytelling elements as the main characters in the game?
Well, he's kind of a weird one. He, I think he just became a company favorite as well. Our writer, who works, it doesn't work in the office, but he just added a bunch of dialogue to this wacky character, and he had so much personality, and I don't know, I guess we kind of just fell in love and exploited his cool...
You can talk about the Frog Boy lore, though. That's not really seen in the game.
Well, okay, it's not official lore.
He actually has a name, doesn't he? Is that secret, or is that like...
That's... Oh, it's not... Well...
Wait, he has a name?
Yeah, he has
Yeah,
a name.
he does.
Before he was... His name was Jorah. That was his name. Before he was called Frog Boy, and then we just changed it to Frog Boy, because that was... We called him Frog Boy internally. So he became less of a Jorah and more of a Frog Boy.
He doesn't look like a Jorah anyway, so it suits him better, I think.
He's actually not from Umbra, which is the planet you're on. He woke up there from some place and got captured by a giant frog, which he then lured into the sun. The frog dried up, and he took the frog's place as the Onurasu that protects the swamp. So he kind of, where he is originally from is still secret.
Dude, that's some hot info right there. You guys I think that's a leak. That technically is a leak.
tell anyone.
Do not.
Oh man, I gotta report this, but that is super interesting. I mean, he's a character that like everybody in my chat goes so hard over, especially like you'll see at the end of the game. He has his little goofy animations, and he is absolutely a fan favorite. So I mean, a lot of people really love him. So I thought that maybe he was, you know, I said maybe he was supposed to be an actual playable character in the game or something like that. And then he just, you know, they decided another direction, but. Oh, that was so lucky. But back to the speed run of things really quick. Please don't die, Olea. That was a mistake. So I actually need nobody to die here. And the reason is because, like I mentioned previously, Bond and EXP are immensely important. Now, Olea is actually the most dispensable out of everybody. We're going to go back and heal. Generally, in a non-marathon setting, I will use Bond on Nart there, and trust that I'll have it back by the third fight I'm going to take here. However, in the marathon, it doesn't really lose you anything but a few seconds to just warp back to Plummet Island and get a full heal for free. There is these talents that you're seeing me deal with here, and they're very important, and oftentimes I forget to do them right here, so I'm going to make sure that I do, and it's a great opportunity to talk about them. So the talent system in this game is... It's simplified, but it has like complexity in and of what each one of these little things I'm doing do. So if I had to compare it to something, I would compare it most to like Final Fantasy X and the way that the sphere grid works, where you have some that represent strength and or in that game strength and magic and stuff like that. And in this game, it's similar. You have might, you have magic, resilience, armor, and then you have talents, which actually like give you a status attribute of sorts. Now there is. There's an interesting caveat to that, though, because like talents do give multiple increases to certain stats. So might, for instance, gives you like critical hit rate and things like that as a sub bonus. But as a, I mean, primarily they're good for doing like glass cannon attack stuff. Whereas like the defensive tiles, they give you speed as well. So the tankier that you become, the tankier that you become, also the faster your character becomes. And you're going to see me, this is not excellent, abuse that to a degree later on once we do get Taika and we have Nart and Taika do what they do best. But I wanted to ask you guys about the talent system, Snowcastle. It is simple, and I like it because I can know exactly what I'm going to do. You can change tiles. You can't remove one, but you can switch one out for another, so it's not permanent. What was your guys' general idea behind the tile system for talents, and are you happy with how it is? Do you wish it was more complex? Do you think it's too complex? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the idea was that it should be simple enough for people who didn't want to spend a lot of time in the talent sport, just place down talent and keep on moving. And then if someone wanted to switch out stat talents, add some perks, change abilities to kind of try and min-max the damage output, then that's also a possibility. So try to make it simple and flexible. And I see a lot of people in the chat are mentioning that it's similar to Final Fantasy X, which it's one of the games we took a lot of inspiration from, because that's we really like that talent system.
Sphere grid.
Yeah, the sphere grid.
It just so happens that game is coming on right after this one, I think. Isn't that crazy? That's nuts. But
another thing, like you mentioned earlier, going back to the level 20 cap, is that if you are struggling with the boss, which are obviously the main hurdles in this game, is that you can go out and switch the talents and you're not locked into something, so that it's very customizable.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank God for that. There's a few of them in this game that you absolutely like. There's even a boss in this game I have to switch stuff around for, because he's a big bad dude for sure. But he is thankfully much later in the game, and I'll get to that. But you mentioned character inspiration and being inspired by a Final Fantasy game. I wanted to ask about Frogboy's hat specifically, this one I have on my head. Is there any influence from any other game, possibly the critically acclaimed worldwide classic Thousand Arms, that Frogboy's hat came from, or is that kind of an idea that that one of you guys came up with just up on your own?
Well, I think the hat is probably inspired from a lot of typical Japanese games or like anime characters, stuff like that. Like I think maybe in other animes you can see the same kind of hat. I'm not sure if it's with the frog, but it's for sure like very similar to the hat in what's it called? Thousand
Arms, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the frog suit in Super Mario Bros. 3 for the the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
That also kind of look. I'm there's no artists here at the moment, so we're not completely sure, but that's what it reminds me of at least.
But that might very well be one of the references, though.
Yeah.
So what I heard is, yes, Thousand Arms was the main inspiration for this game.
Fine.
There's that whole frog going on.
Yeah.
That's good to know, man. That's good to know. So in this fight, I want to touch real quick. You're going to see me use the first instance of Bond. I used it with Ive. Now, this fight can go super fast if Ive goes first and then Eamon, but if Eamon goes before Ive, then we actually have to haste. But you're going to see these guys get just absolutely bodied. And the reason for that is Ive has an ability called the Fire Trap Drop, and that is going to drop this. And it's like imagine a trap, it's a debuff that's on them. And what it does is anytime Eamon fires with a non-elemental, I believe, a Spud, and it hits an enemy that has that trap debuff, it's going to pop it. However, if one of those enemies does a melee attack, it'll pop it. They'll take damage at that point. However, as you saw there, I was able to utilize it to kill almost everything with just those combinations of abilities. And it's going to lead us to probably one of the hardest bosses of the game, definitely the hardest early on, but it's worth mentioning that all those fights I took, you saw me take 6, 6, and then 7. Now, I took that specific number of each of those fights very much on purpose. You know, we don't need, how many medicines we got? No, we're just going to YOLO it. That sounds like a good idea. The way that it works is, oh shoot, hold on 1 second. Let me do this. So the way that that the fire trap and all that stuff works is it'll be utilized to AoE clear multiple enemies. Yeah, I guess we'll do this now. So clear multiple enemies, and that's basically, you're going to see a lot of that when it comes to having to deal with large EXP groups. And the reason I take large enemy encounters all at once is because there's an EXP multiplier in this game. So every enemy that you fight over 4, or it depends on how many people you got in your party, but basically if you're outnumbered by the amount of enemies on the screen, you're going to get an outnumbered EXP boost. Also, you're going to receive a multiplier on your EXP for however enemies are in that fight. So if there's 6, 7, 8, you're going to get a pretty significant EXP multiplier. And EXP in this game, like I've mentioned multiple times up to this point, is very, very monumental. I need to be a very specific EXP at certain points throughout the game. And I'm going to, you know, it's become a little bit more loose lately as I've managed to like optimize the route a little bit. However, it still remains like there are some things you just can't afford to have somebody dead for. And there are some times when like you absolutely have to take this many enemies as opposed to a lesser amount. But casually, it presents the really interesting idea where you can, you know, if you're struggling, you can just only take a couple of fights. But if you feel like you just want to wing it and go for gold, then you can absolutely, I can't stand when he does that, then you can absolutely take less enemies in an encounter to make the fights a little bit easier at the cost of benefiting EXP-wise. And I really like that interaction. For this game, it helps a lot because we're able to deal with the low-level cap and the optimization of taking fights at the same time as being able to go quickly. So it's pretty huge. The EXP in this game cannot be understated. But I'm going to talk about this fight here for a second while I'm doing it. Then most of the fights in this game will not be this bad. The issue with him is that Olea, anybody who does melee damage, we cannot utilize here. Because if he's attacked, he will counterattack. So we have to use ranged attacks to deal with him. Now the issue is that I only have Eamon and Ive at this point, and Eamon is kind of meh, just because we're only level 5. I imagine you should be taking the fight a lot higher than level 5, but We're going to burn through a lot of Kisses of Bliss. This is not excellent. The worst thing that you can see is for him to, yeah, just like that, is to confuse people. Nart especially, because Nart will regen him, he'll haste him, things like that. So this fight gets ugly pretty quick. Usually I use a lot of my revive items here, my healing items, things like that. But as long as we can get Nart to a full bond, we should be able to make it through this fight with a little, nothing more than a little bit of lost time. Oh, we're not doing too bad time-wise. That's surprising. Olia, again, you see that I have her in the counter stance, and the reason for that is even though she can't attack directly, she'll get an unpenalized counter attack if Gob King fight. Dang it! If Gob King fights her. Oh man, we are straight up low on items. So we're just gonna YOLO, like I said. If anybody dies, it's just too bad for them. They should have made better decisions. But Olia is very powerful in this fight, even though it sounds like her use might be trivialized to an extent. We just need Nart to take his turn. And oh, that crit helps a lot. That's our last revive, so we should be okay though. Nart's bond is very, very good, especially early on. It's an AoE regen. It gives you a short initial burst of HP, as well as it gives you a regen buff, which is exactly what it sounds like. You're getting HP slowly over time as turns kind of pass. But one thing I failed to explain that I'll do right now, since this fight doesn't look like it will ever end, is that you can see the little yellow squares below each character's HP bar. Now that's called Amory. Amory is... Why you did that? Amory is very important in this game because what it does is it dictates like what you're able to do on a turn. So like that regen ability I just cast with Nart, that takes 2 Amory. The Olia's Taunt takes 2 Amory. Fire Spud, shooting, doing standard melee attacks. Ooh, that's not going to be excellent. They all do a specific amount of Amory, take a specific amount of Amory as well. Now there is an ability to rest, which you're seeing me utilize, especially on Nart and on Olia right now. Oh, I was hoping that he would die. That would have been hilarious. Whatever. That's Gob King. Yeah, you can clap for that. That was close. I know that I played it off super well, but I was a little bit scared right there for a minute. But one thing that's worth mentioning is your characters do come back to life once they die and you've left the fight, which is nice as far as the lists are concerned, resource management. But Amory is very important, especially once you get to the people who utilize a little bit more of it at once, like Taika, who we will see before too long. And resting not only gives you, it doesn't cost an Amory, in fact it gives you one back in return. And oh man, and what that means is that it's actually like a 2 Amory swing. So for people like Taika, people like Nart, getting that swing of Amory back is pretty crucial. We're gonna take this fight as well because we need the EXP. It's worth mentioning that the characters that are flying only can be touched by ranged attack. So it's important that you utilize, ranged abilities, which is Ive and Eamon have similar stances in that respect. So there was one question I wanted to ask you guys. I'll have to think about it. I can't remember what it is. But Casa, while this is taking place, if you have a few more donations you want to plug, absolutely feel free to throw those in then right now.
For sure. We actually have a donation that ties back into what you were talking about earlier about your frog hat. We have a $10 donation that's from Cassini Closet that says, "Nice hat, Professor Palmer. Earthlock looks like it's a beautiful game, but let me know if you need another hat. This is a great cost to play video games for. Thank you, and have a great day." We also have a $5 donation from Sega Zach that says, "Hello, Prof. Sega Zach here, formerly of RPG Site. My profession may have changed, but you will always have my full support. Do the thing."
Thank you so much, both of you guys. Yeah, Cassini Closet is the creator of this amazing hat you see here. You can find her on her social media. It's just a little shameless plug. She did an amazing job. I love this hat. It really is uncanny, the resemblance. It looks just like the hat in the game. So,
ooh, are we okay for a few more donations?
Yeah, take it away, man.
Alrighty, we have a $15 donation from Kios Little Monster that says, "Hi Casa, hi Carrie, good luck. Bonus $10 donation for completing a dab during your run. Does it count if I do it from behind the camera?"
So do I need a dab? Is it like...
Both of us, yeah.
There you go. You know, Ben knows how much I don't like dabbing. Yeah, you're welcome. God, I feel dirty after that. I feel like I did something wrong.
Here's a little something to make you feel a little cleaner, buddy. We have a $100 donation from Andrew82 and a $50 donation from Crystal K that says, "Is Palmer going to rock this run? You can bet on it. Good luck to everyone running this week for such a great cause."
Heck yeah, bet on it. That's a shout out to 07 Efron. Hopefully that emote's being spammed in chat. If you guys are subs in my channel, get your bet on it's out. Get that Efron out. You know what I'm saying? That's really all I got to say about that, to be honest. That's all that needs to be said. But so far, lore-wise, I'll catch you guys up a little bit on the story the best I can. Snowcastle, if I'm completely wrong about anything, feel free to just stop me from talking at any point. I think a lot of people here would be pretty pleased with that. But what we're doing now is we found Ive. She has crash landed at the very beginning of the game in the tutorial. She was like you notice she was a pilot in the Suvian military, or at least going through her pilot training. Her father, however, is the commander, and after she completed her training and was given the clearance to fly, he retracted it and said, "No, you're not ready." Well, she wanted to be a part of the mission, so she borrowed somebody else's, hopped in a cruiser, and took off. Well, that cruiser was then shot down, and it crashed right in the Zabirum Temple, which is where you saw us get do the puzzle and all that stuff before we found her. Now, when that took place, your party kind of combined at that point. However, she mentioned that her dog, Taika, is nowhere to be found and that the goblins kidnapped her. So we are currently on our way to get Taika right now, and it's for a good reason. Taika is absolutely the most important character in this game, which brings me to the next question for you, Snowcastle. Was there anybody that seemed like they were just way out of control broken when you initially created all the characters and abilities in this game, or did you think that everybody was pretty much even and had their strengths and their weaknesses? How did that process go down for you guys?
There was a lot of testing back and forth, trying to balance both all the characters and all the different combinations you can have, all the different bonds, different abilities. Taika wasn't really... The ability you're talking about, that you're going to touch on later, I guess, was more powerful before. We've actually nerfed it a bit, but it still seems like we could have done a better job on that one.
No, I like it where it's at, to be honest. In fact, it could even do a little bit more. I wouldn't be upset.
Well,
I'll see what we can do.
Wow, thank you. I feel like there's so much merit to that. What we're doing right now, though, is we're going to chase Taika down. We're going to go into the desert, it has its own kind of puzzle. It's really unique. I like this puzzle a lot because it's not really a puzzle. But what you have to do is you'll see these instances of shade out here. And this is one of the prettiest areas. This track whips. The boss at the end of it is a very neat kind of boss. This might be my favorite area in the whole game. It reminds me of Texas back home, clearly. But what you have to do is you have to run from shade spot to shade spot before an invisible timer, a heat timer, essentially, wears out. Now, if it wears out and you don't make it from one spot to the other, your character is going to pass out, and it'll basically just warp you back to the shade spot you were at previously. It's a really neat mechanic. I've never seen anything like it in an RPG before. I really like it. As far as you guys are concerned, what do you think about the heat mechanic? It's come a long way as far as optimizations in a speed run. I used to be really safe, but now I just kind of like run and to see how far I can go before I die.
Mechanics-wise, that dungeon or instance or whatever you want to call it was kind of a Marmite experience when we were developing it, because we weren't really sure whether or not people would, first of all, get the mechanic of having to stay in the shadows, and then as you start playing more around with it, because obviously you have to sort of, when placing out these items that cast shadow, you want the player to sort of get the stressful feeling of almost fainting at some point, but also kind of making it a fun gameplay when throwing in enemies in the mix as well. Mm-hmm. So it took quite a while to get it to a point where I guess all in the office were on board with it. But playing around with the timer and the amount of places you could actually stop and rest for the timer to sort of slow down and even add some treasures ended up making it feel like a good experience in the end. Certainly not something we've seen in a lot of games before, so we wanted to check it out and sort of ended up staying in there.
Yeah, I really like it. I mean, at first it took me like it's not at first glance hard to understand, but I feel like it adds a good layer of depth and kind of immersion to this area right here, because it's it's these huge kind of relics of the old world, which is a little bit of a lore point I haven't really touched on, and I'll do that here in a second. But I think I mean I love it. I like the kind of these half-buried relics in the ground providing the shade, and it kind of sets the scene a little bit with that mechanic included where you run through the desert and you get hot. It's crazy how that works.
One of the more interesting aspects when building the scene was definitely trying to place out buildings and shadowy figures that you think you could probably sort of reach before the timer ran out. I don't know if you had any of those moments when you tried the area the first time, but we kind of wanted to drag the player's attention kind of off screen. But you'll notice that as you start running way too far off, the camera will sort of pull back and try and help the player back in place.
Yeah, I've actually it's not a joke when I say that I've traveled like every possible direction there is to see like what shortcuts existed and things like that, and there really isn't any, unfortunately, I must say. For my purposes, you really have to you kind of have to go along the way that's intended, which oh my goodness, the audacity, right? But there is one neat little skip here that I'm going to bring up, and it's actually one that the developers themselves taught me. You'll notice that I still have this red Amory charge that I'm going to charge this pedestal with right here. And the reason I have that is because Snowcastle originally in the initial email told me that when I left the Zabirum Temple right before we got Ive, you saw me fight that red Amory lantern at the exit, and you can actually maintain that red charge on Eamon's wristband until you get here, which cuts out half of the puzzle in this area. So a huge shout out to you guys on that. That saves probably 6 or 7 minutes in and of itself. And it also led me to figure out a lot of the skips later on how exactly, that the Amory colors and charges and holding charges and all that kind of stuff worked, which led to the Tower of Dur skip, which probably saved, I don't know, 10 or 11 minutes in and of itself as well. But we do have Taika. And I believe, Casa, if I'm not mistaken, Princess Ive did get met. Princess Ive did get met. Thank you guys so much for your donations. We are going to be now in Ive's optional skin, which is the Princess one. So couldn't have been possible without you guys donating, so I really do appreciate that. But now we have Taika, and that's everything about this run. It really is. So we're going to get rid of all the magic tiles on Nart. We're going to try to put armor and resilience where we can, because like I mentioned previously, it's very, very important to have tanky tiles tanky talent squares, because it allows you to be faster. Now at the same time, you're not gaining any speed by going just full damage. So we have the unique opportunity to give Nart this ability to cast buffs and have his turns really, really quickly. By the time Taika takes her turn, Nart has potentially gotten 2, maybe 3 turns off. Now that allows us to like multiplicatively stack buffs significantly higher, and leads to some of the strats you're going to see me practice later. Man, Ive looks good in this skin. I really like this one. Snowcastle, how many skins are there alternate for everybody in the game? Can you guys touch on that for a second?
Everyone has 1 except for Pat, the robot. He has 2, I believe.
I think Taika as well.
Taika has 2 as well. Yeah, they all have at least 1. Eamon's is actually right where you are now in the scrap pile, right next to you on the overworld.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah.
Just kidding. I knew that.
Okay.
No, I really didn't know that. Where is it? It's in the scrap pile. Yeah, I'm gonna get it.
Ooh.
Let's do it.
Ninja incentive. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah, I obviously didn't. The scrap piles in this game, I guess, is a really good time to mention those. So that's Eamon's overworld ability, aside from obviously the Amory stuff. But he actually has the ability to. Oh, come on, dude. Whew, thank goodness. He has the ability to pick up these scrap piles the same way that Nart has the ability to to like, you know, utilize plants that are on the overworld for different effects and such. And scrap piles, I kind of ignore because we don't craft any items or equipment in this game. But in Earthlock, the updated version, you can actually craft weapons and gear. And now they all have. Now it's not just like this piece of gear is significantly better than another one. They all kind of have like this unique thing that they do. So you have situations where. Oh man, that was dumb of me. So you have unique situations where, excuse me, where you will be like, you know, this gun is better than this other one. And it's not just a simple, all right, I bought this in the next town, so it's got to be stronger than my last one situation, which I really like. And it adds a lot of replayability as far as if you're playing casually. Check out some of the interesting things that you can craft and whatnot. But a lot of them do, bringing it back around, require you to go through some of those scrap piles and get ingredients. There's a Hollow Knight boss in this game that we won't be doing today, but if you were curious, that's also something you have to get out of a scrap pile. So let's see. Is it this one right here?
We're a bit delayed, so you can't see it yet. It's that one, yeah.
What? Oh! My boy looking like a Flintstones character. I like it.
Well, thank you.
That's neat, man. I actually never knew that, so if I did, I would have probably included it. But you guys are getting a freebie at home, and while you're at home, you know, feel free to donate for some of the incentives that are in some of the upcoming games. There are some really, really good ones. A lot of friends of mine are running some really great games. So, Casa, if you have anything to say on that point, feel free to do so.
Definitely. We have Final Fantasy X coming up next, and one of the things that still needs to be met is the Audio Glitch Showcase. We only have $735 out of 2,000, so we need to see a little bit more to get there. What we also have for Final Fantasy X is some bid wars for the summons, and also for Tidus. Right now for Tidus, we have Lamia Queen at $110, Potato at $105, and Terra at $50. So if you want to see your spunky blonde blitzballer be named Potato, you got to get those donations in.
Potato. I like that one. But thank you so much, by the way, Casa. But this area now, we're back in the desert. Now, what you guys saw me do was actually very, very important. I went and killed this enemy called the Barnacle, and you'll notice that we got huge levels based off of it. Barnacles are these enemies in the game that are a huge surge in EXP when you kill them. I think there's 4 total. They're all of a certain elemental resistance, and they all give a significant amount of EXP. We go and kill them at very specific points. We wait to kill the first one until after we have Taika, which is why that fight is a little bit easier than the remaining Barnacles. The Barnacles we have left will beat me up pretty good if I'm not careful, but we needed Taika to benefit from that EXP, so that's what we did. Oh, dude, Eamon looks good, bro. I like this. I'm about it. He kind of has like a Maui from Moana look. He's like all buff. He's got some tattoos. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we had those in the extended version or if they were in the original game. Do you remember?
This used to be the DLC for Festival of Magic, and we added them as gameplay elements instead for the extended one.
That's really cool. Are there? You said Taika has 2. I'm familiar with the kind of like red and brown one. What is it? What is the other one?
So
Dark blue and light blue, I guess, is the sort of an ice themed one.
yeah,
Yeah, the storm dogs are based on different elements, right?
yeah.
Mhm.
They're all magical.
All right. But where is it?
Oh, that's a good question. Where is it?
It's got to be in like the Karba area or something, I imagine, right?
That's a craftable one, so it depends. I think can't
Oh, that makes
remember,
sense.
but you've probably broken down the game more than we have at this point.
It's a secret.
Oh man, a pretty good one apparently, but yeah, Taika. Unfortunately, the reason I included Nart and Olia is because we'll be, Nart and Ive as donation incentives is because we will be utilizing them throughout the run. However, throughout the remainder of the game, we're not going to really see Olia. Obviously, I didn't know about Amon's, but we're not going to see Olia a whole bunch, so I abstained from adding hers. Fortunately, you get hers just from completing story stuff, and hers is a really good one. It's just she's a little underutilized in the speed run just because she has some limitations on what she can contribute, and Taika and Nart are absolutely, you cannot get rid of them. And then Eamon and Ive work as like good kind of supporting cast characters as well. So that's the story behind why my party is the way that it is. Lore-wise, let me catch you guys up. We are traversing the desert, and we're not doing it because we're bored. We are heading to Suvia. So when we initially met Nart, and he said that I could take you to a place that you could sell this relic, Suvia was what he was talking about. Now, Ive is a soldier from Suvia, and Olia and Nart need to go back to Suvia because that's where the House of the High Owl, the historical society that they work for, that's where they are. So we have to cross this desert to do so, and this desert is home to one of the more interesting bosses in the game. I've tried my absolute best to get him to work a certain way, but 2 phases is as fast as I can get it, and you'll see what I'm talking about when we get there. But he's like I believe it's a Titan. Correct me if I'm wrong, Snowcastle. But he's a Titan, which is pretty unique. There's only a handful of them in the game. I think just Sharon, Neuron, and the Hollow Knight. Although I could be wrong as far as like some of the Karba prison bosses.
I guess you could add on maybe the Temple Guardian and the Twisted Guardian to that sort of kind.
All of the hardest bosses in the game are the ones they don't give you the ability to have stronger resistance to or whatever. The audacity. Yeah, the Sharon you're going to see here in a second, but first we got to do a shorter puzzle. Again, now they're adding a puzzle into the puzzle, which is pretty advanced. But I'm actually going to pick up a couple extra chests just because that Gob King fight went so poorly that I'm going to need to make sure I get a little bit more resources. I have a question for you. If I'm not mistaken, in Earthlock Festival of Magic, as soon as you defeated the Titan in this area, which would be obviously Sharon, did the heat effect go away when you revisit the place later on?
No, the heat effect in this area is was still the same, but defeating Sharon allows you to cross the entire desert, which is basically lets you escape this scene.
Oh.
So you it's a curse that Sharon has put on the entire desert. So you're kind of locked in this mirage.
And that right here is to give you an example of what it looks like when you fail. But it's actually faster to just warp back here and then come across. But there are some healing elixirs we need in there, as well as some small gems that we can sell for some money later on if money ends up getting tight for marathon safety. But I believe, this game, I failed to mention previously, was like a Kickstarter campaign initially that obviously got backed and made. And now we're fortunate enough to have the game we have in front of us. But I watched the trailer on the original Kickstarter campaign, and I think it ended with Sharon's rising out of the ground kind of battle animation, and it looks really neat. Like, he looks really scary until you see me fight him, and you're like, wow, he's not so bad. But he's really cool in his design. If you don't know what you're doing though, this is probably, as we said, the difficulty curve is pretty immense in this game, but if this is the first boss that if you don't know exactly what the idea is and what the gimmick and the mechanic is in this, you're going to be doing this fight multiple times, I can guarantee you. Fortunately, we have a pretty streamlined way of doing it now in the route, but it is creative. So I guess my question to you guys is, what is kind of the thought process and what goes into coming up with bosses that are more than just this is how much HP he has, when they have like functionality behind them, like, where do you guys stand on something like that? How does that come to be?
Well, the Sharon came mostly out of wanting to do a multi-target boss, because that was interesting to us, seeing how you could have one big entity have 3 different targets the player would have to focus on. And then from there, it sort of grew into what we could do with it and what the difficulty curve would be. Trying to balance the game that allows you to have 6 characters in total makes it really hard to try and balance how a fight would sort of turn out in different versions of it. So I guess it was more or less mapping out some abilities we thought would fit the character, and then just play through it over and over and over again, and then play some more. But it ended up being the fight that it is, mostly due to the fact that we would sort of anticipate the character being one at a certain XP level, basically, and have a certain set of abilities, which is why you can see certain, I guess the bonds playing to that as well, like certain pairs you'd have or abilities dropping that the player could optimize with. And then we tried playing it with sort of an optimized and unoptimized board. And then from that, the other multi-target bosses grew, I guess.
That makes a lot of sense, although I'm curious to what you guys would consider an optimized board. Just because I've seen what Taika can do. I know what an optimized board looks like at this point.
Well, you've pretty much got it down to a T at this point, but
Yeah.
I'd say we all tried playing it with different strategies in mind and builds, I guess, with the other two characters, and that would require, like, some call them builds, would require you to farm a bit more before going into fights. Obviously, we didn't have the time aspect in mind when we were playing through it in the office. But it was interesting because we wouldn't share tactics on getting through the game, only to see it be played. So I think Øystein's the one that had the most min-maxing strategies in mind. And then after having played through it a couple of times, he started sharing content, and we'd actually start jumping back in to try and see if we could beat each other. So I guess a lot of the optimization of that as well.
That is really neat, man. It's I mean, because he's a super cool boss, and he has, like, as you can see here, an actual mechanic behind him. It's not as simple as just punch him until he's dead kind of thing. Oh, yee. Ooh. Just kidding. I know exactly what's about to go down. Anyways, so the thing you saw me do on Taika was cast Elemental Absorb, and the reason I did that is because it makes you immune to these types of damage that you see right here. So that's lightning, fire, and ice currently, or water rather. Now the way that works is that Sharon, when he gets up, he's going to cast a really strong ability on me, and that ability is a fire base. So by having Taika just cast Elemental Absorb on everybody, we can actually prevent Sharon from one-shotting us. He wouldn't necessarily one-shot us, but it definitely slows it. Oops! It definitely slows us down, and it's annoying. Right here, while he's in this stance, you can't do any damage to him, so it's best to use this opportunity to rest and get your Amri back up. You can lay debuffs on him, so what I'm going to do with Eamon here is put these marked target debuffs, which allow you to do a little bit more damage with ranged attacks to those pieces that you can currently target. Now, as you can see, I'm not actually doing any damage to the head because he's technically immune. Although I did find out that he's not entirely immune to DOT. There have been times when I've got his head down to like a really low amount of HP, and one more DOT tick did it. But altogether, this fight, you want to have it end in, as you can see, 2 turns. And the reason for that is so that it's faster. But at the same time, we're not going to switch Taika back to his other stance, which is what you are required to be in order to do the Elemental Absorb. That is what I did in order to like get everybody's immunities up. We're gonna have to bond here, it looks like. Taika's not gonna have Amri. Ooh. Alright, so we might die. I mean, if we do, it's not the end of the world. My best bet is to... I did save, obviously, because I don't have a regen item to get Nart up. Usually what I'll do in this fight is to get Nart up with a Kiss of Liss, and then I will... Ooh, it's stuck! No, that was so... This is so YOLO at this point, but I get Nart to have magic attack bonus on, and that gives me the opportunity to buff up Taika. So we go through this fight significantly faster. This is just kind of poor decision making on my part that is leading to this. Doesn't look like we got Electro to stick. She's probably dead here. That's fine. That's whatever. That's my bad. We'll reload really quickly. It's not too big a deal.
Is it all right if we read a few donations?
Oh,
real quick?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Take it away.
Alrighty, I have a $10 donation from RP Priya that says, "Shoutouts to Yogi Nart using a singing bull to power up the party. Snow Castle. What inspired you to use that for his weapon? Donation goes to Renner's Choice.
Oh, a singing bowl. Yeah, Snowcastle. Singing bowl Nart. What's the story behind that one?
I guess Nart being a hog bunny sort of came out of them being forest creatures. So we started looking at shamanism as one of the themes for that race in particular. So the singing bowl is just sort of a meditating shamanistic theme that adds to that class specifically. Don't really know if there's anything else tied to it, but it sort of fits the bill for the character and the size of the character as well. Yeah.
So there was Frog Boy that we mentioned earlier, and I said, unless I screw up, we're not going to see him. Well, we've seen him. I screwed up. That's my bad. But that is, as you can see, he kind of teleports out and gives you some advice. So when fights are difficult, you're able to just talk to him, and he'll kind of give you a rundown on, like, I think you should do this, you should try this, blah, blah, blah. And it's really nice. And when I routed the game initially, the first run ever was about 7 hours, which is obviously not crazy impressive compared to where it's at now. But a lot of it was the routing process itself was going to a fight, dying, reading what the Frog Boy had to say, and then oh, he's stunned. That stinks. Reading what the Frog Boy had to say, and then developing strategies around that. So it's an interesting mechanic for sure. Another thing I wanted to mention and ask you guys about at the same time is there seems to be there's like a dialogue situation that takes place when you fight something that's very strong. And if you're fighting an enemy that's stronger than you, your party members, when the fight starts, they'll say something along the lines of, you know, we might not be strong enough to deal with this. Maybe we should come back after we've gotten stronger. Or if you are, you know, kind of in par with what the game thinks you should be, when it wants you to fight stuff, it'll say something along the lines of, you know, we can handle this, so it's going to be difficult or whatever. So what's kind of the science behind that, if you don't mind my asking?
If I remember correctly, we took the average level we beat the bosses on when we played, and then the game checks for the average level of all the different characters, and if those match up, then it'll tell you that you're strong enough. So if the game tells you that you're not strong enough, you might need to go back and do some quests or grind or.
And Frog Boy was added as a sort of flip point to that, because if you're not strong enough, but still are in the fight, because fleeing from boss battles is not an option. He'll at least show up and try and help you out a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is really neat, because I found that in most cases where they were like, hey, we're really under-leveled, they weren't wrong. I got the snot beat out of me in a lot of those situations. But I was always curious as to how that kind of came to be, because it is an interesting, and I'm not gonna lie, it took me a long time to figure out that, oh, this is what he's talking about. I'm not strong enough. Like, I just thought it was like some cheeky dialogue until I paid attention to it and realized that the game was trying to do me some favors. All right, we should be fine on 2-rounding this now, especially with Nart. Now that Nart's not dead, I just had it played a little bit differently in the sense that I needed Nart to not die, and I don't have any revive items still, but it shouldn't matter a ton. We're going to hopefully not have anybody die, but if they do die, we've already done enough damage to the first phase that it doesn't matter. Alrighty, let's see. So now that we can use Taika, you're going to notice just how significant the damage that Taika starts to put out is. One thing that I need to mention about Taika that you're going to notice very quickly is that AoE damage in this game is split, which is another thing I would like to ask you guys about. But first, I'll kind of explain. Whenever you cast an AoE spell that's going to do, let's say, 800 damage, it's going to split it up between all the targets that are currently on the screen. So it'll, you know, obviously if it's single target, it's going to do all that damage to somebody. But can you guys kind of explain the merit behind that and like why you went that direction? And was it specifically just to keep AoE magic from becoming too strong?
The first idea was actually to be able to toggle between being able to select every single enemy or focus on one. So you could either split the damage or focus all the damage on one character. We then decided to just split it and
First try.
And-
First try.
decided to split it and then use her super abilities, which are the same attacks, but the super versions of them do not split the damage.
Yeah, that's true. That is another thing I should have mentioned. Taika's Bond, when you use Taika's Bond, it doesn't actually, everybody takes the same amount of damage. That damage doesn't get split up like that. And that's really nice. You'll see me, there's a lot of fights that I don't want to deal with, especially later on or in the tournament that we'll do here in a little bit, that are rather tricky. And having Taika's Bond is monumental, and it's a large part of the reason why I didn't use Bond. I'm sure a lot of you watched me die the first time and said, well, why didn't you just revive? I'm sorry, why didn't you just go and use your Bond with one of the characters? Well, this next fight, this Barnacle, is actually why. This Barnacle is a tough cookie. It's no joke. He's rather difficult. We absolutely have to not only have Taika's Bond at full, but we need to make sure that Nart and Taika both are on the same bond. And I'll explain the why to that a little bit later on. But first, we got to equip a few things. We need resilience here. We need her to be in this, him to be in this. Yep, we'll just go like this. Oh, there's 4 enemies. So I absolutely, in this situation, don't want to fight 4 enemies. I need the Barnacle and the Barnacle alone. I could have waited to initiate. There we go. The Barnacle in and of itself is really difficult, so we really don't need to make this fight any harder than it already is. But we're going to use Water Bomb on Taika, and we're going to use the Water Blast with with Eamon. And the way that these guys work is whenever you do physical damage to them, they're going to respond by putting a debuff on you, and that makes you weak to the respective element. The issue with that, though, is that it hurts. So what we need is, for right here, we want Taika. Ooh. Oh, okay, perfect. Excellent. So that's what we wanted. We want what's called Barnacle's Challenge, which is where he just places one of those debuffs. And hopefully this kills. Oh, brilliant. He died to DOT. Sweet. Nobody died there. Whew.
Hey, Palmer, we have Einstein shaking his head here. Apparently you made a false claim.
Yeah, the Barnacle's challenge is the one that has the challenge on him is the only one that should be able to attack. Or the Barnacle challenges one of the team members, and if anyone else attacks, he'll put a debuff on them.
Oh.
So you can't go through a Barnacle fight without getting the debuff, the damage increase debuff at all.
Wait. So how do you? Is there a way then to force the Barnacle to use challenge?
No, that's he challenges whoever he likes.
Oh, okay, cool. Because that is the saving grace in the Barnacle fights is when he waits. Because those fights usually don't end in a whole lot of turns. However, the turns that he does take are potent. They hurt, and we never want to. We never want to have him use Firestorm 3 times in a row. We would have absolutely not lived. But in the case that he does a challenge, it's basically that one extra turn that we need in order to not die. So it's always nice when you see it go that way. Also, there is an EXP. You do lose a little bit of EXP when you die. That character that was dead receives a little bit less, I believe. And like I said earlier, we want to maximize our EXP gain, especially now that we have Taika, the best we can. But right here, we're actually going to do a small amount of EXP just to get back what we're missing. So, Casa, if you do have any donations or something you want to plug, absolutely feel free to do so.
We definitely have quite a few here, actually, catching up from a little bit ago. We have a $30 donation from Dark77778252. Big name there. Had to donate during the Professor's run. He's such a cool guy on stream and has shown me several runs of amazing games I've never seen before. Give him a follow, chat, and donate for the Frog Hat. We already got the Frog Hat, so you got that, buddy. We got a $100 donation from Cloud7470. Hey friends, just needed to drop this off. Shoutouts to all my friends and everyone working this event. Aiko's lame, and let's triumph over mental illness for real. We're all fam now. We also have a $10 donation from Tets that says, do your part, get this man to $100,000. What that means is if you get to $100,000 during this run, Palmer has promised that he will do 3 different 100% runs. I believe it was Thousand Arms, Crystal Bearers, and Earthbound?
Earthlock, yeah.
Yes, Earthlock. I have Earthbound stuck from the other day. We have a $10 donation from Marikaze that says, "Yo, been waiting for tonight. Chrono Trigger, Taskbot, Earthlock, Final Fantasy X, so many great faces. But speaking of great faces, did you know that you no longer match your shirt, Palmer?"
That's true. I got my hair cut. Sue me. Thank you so much, Marikaze. It's a good friend. Shouts to you. Donated while I was hosting yesterday as well for High Spirits is the thing he did, whatever that was.
Is it okay if I continue with a few
Oh,
more?
absolutely, man.
Perfect. All right. We have a $100 donation from Solomon Ella that says, "I was literally just watching YouTube videos from last year's RPG Limit Break. Then I saw that was going on this week. Unfortunately, I have work tomorrow, so I can't stay to watch the Final Fantasy speedrun, but I'm always down to donate for a great cause."
Oh. I was like, why? I knew Taika's damage was a little low, but it looks like I forgot to remove tiles of a different stat. But sorry, Casa, you can keep going.
Alrighty. I have $10 donation from Sharky. It says, "Just an idea. About 200 gamers here in Salt Lake City would be hyped if this game was ported to the SNES. Shout out to Palmer's Coffee Carafe."
Yeah, shouts to the coffee.
We have a $10 donation from Mihai Castor that says, "Can't wait for Palmer to have even more 100% runs. Maybe he will run 100% Eve at next year's RPG Limit Break. We all know he loves that game."
Now, Parasite Eve specifically wasn't mentioned on purpose.
We have a $10 donation from ASmith1313 that says, "This game looks neat. Thanks for showing it off and raising money for a great cause."
Thank you guys so much for your donation. And this game is really neat. Like I said earlier, the battles are exceptionally fast-paced. For speedrunning, it feels like this game was made to be speedrun in a lot of ways. The instant and quick text, the ability to mash through it, the double speed for the battle. A lot of the battles in this game are so high-risk, high-reward situations where, like I mentioned with the EXP distribution and all that, if you risk it, you're gonna gain, but it creates like this kind of unique speed running experience that I really enjoy because it's like a giant chess game when you can see the turn order on the right side, and I got to figure out by the time my character is next up, like what the next best move is, and I really like that dynamic of the game, and I hope to see that in future Earthlocks. Which Snowcastle, is there any Earthlock related info on the horizon that you might even be able to share?
Well, I mentioned it in the chat earlier. Unfortunately, we can just say Earthlock 2 is in development, full stop.
I guess we'll have to live with that then, but I do look forward to it, so long that Taika is in it.
That we have switched to Unreal. This was developed in Unity, and the next game will be in the Unreal Engine.
Well, that'll be amazing. I think that this game Unreal is pretty well known for the creative control that it provides. So I think that I look forward to it for sure. I'll be picking it up. But
and, since I'm the marketing guy, I would be remiss if I didn't say that you can subscribe to the Earthlock 2 newsletter on our website. I'm done.
Yeah, or you can follow Snowcastle on Twitter. They're pretty active on Twitter, and they post like a lot of really neat stuff. Something I saw on their Twitter a couple weeks back, I'll mention when we get to a boss later on, but really, really cool info about the game you can find from them, and things that they say, at this point, this guy looked this way and whatever. But this is your donation instead of Mashriga. God bless you guys for getting this donated. I got to figure out what I want to do because it is not an easy fight. This fight has a neat mechanic to it where he will, every time he receives melee damage, he summons his spawn, an ad. Now, this fight is both good and bad. The reason... Okay, well, that's why it's bad. So we got to hope that Taika, our own teammate, doesn't just massacre us really quick. So what I'm doing is I'm switching... Oh, come on, Nart! I'm switching to my other characters and punching Taika in the face. And the reason I'm doing that is because that gets rid of confusion, is to hit your own teammate. Oh my, are you serious? Oh my, bro. I did say before this, the risk that you run in this situation is that I can't use that. So is that Taika can actually you can stun him if you're relegated to using Ive's Thunder Punch to wake Taika up from confusion. He can sometimes be stunned, which is just as bad, if not worse. But now Taika gets a turn, so that's good. We might be all right. We might be all right here. Oh my. Well, Nart's going to go ahead and buff the enemy team. So far this is a disaster. Thank you all so much for donating. I really appreciate it. But this is one of the cooler enemies in the game mechanic-wise. It's really unique. There is a whole bunch of stuff that I've seen. Like, you guys did some Halloween art and things like that, and it's a really cool boss, but it's not necessary. Like, you can obviously not fight this boss and be just fine. The old route, like, sometimes I kind of bounce back and forth between doing it because he is really, really good. And there's a lot of EXP that can be earned from actually fighting him, but why did you guys... Oh, I don't have any revives, do I? Well, yeah, we might be in trouble here. Might just need to die and reset. No. Yeah, we're just going to rest it out then and die. Oh! Don't worry, Taika's going to take care of business and kill our teammate for us. But anyway, Snowcastle, back to my point. Are there some bosses that you thought were way stronger than the areas that they were in? Why are some bosses optional, and what's the process of deciding like what needs to be story driven and what needs to just be put somewhere?
The Mushriga is a good example of us wanting to add some more content that you'd want to come back to, add some backtracking if possible. So the reason that boss is so much tougher than the rest of the enemies in that area, and you'll see, I mean, you'll know what comes later, is more or less that we wanted missable objects in the game, so you'd get the sense of discovering more aspects of it if you wanted to backtrack. But there's not a whole lot of bosses that are missable in that case, but it's just a small tidbit of wanting to add more discoverability, even if you might have missed it out later.
Yeah, there seems to be there's a chest right behind Mushy. Sorry, 1 second. There's a chest behind Mushy that I see a lot of people will ask, like, where's the poison shard that I need to make this gun? And it's there for anybody watching, but I constantly tell people on Reddit where it is, and it seems like Mushy is scary to a lot of people, and they choose to probably abstain from fighting him.
I think it's actually possible to go around him just to get the chest, right?
Yeah,
like, you don't have...
There's two ways. You could use Ive's stealth ability, or you could enter combat, and then, since he's an optional boss, you are able to flee, I believe. So there's two ways to just go and get the chest and run away without defeating the Mushriga.
Yeah, he's in the route. He gives a huge amount of EXP because, like they mentioned, we should not really be fighting him right now. But if we can squeak this out, then we're put in a really, really favorable position for some of the stuff that's going to come later, especially the fight right after this, which when it takes place, I'll kind of give you the rundown because it was the first real roadblock in this game. And when I say roadblock, I meant like there was days of back and forth. How do we deal with this character? And Mushy, thankfully now, I mean, while it is a great donation incentive, it makes the run obviously a lot more dangerous. But we're going to use Taika to the best of her ability, which is pretty dang good. And hopefully we can deal with the next fight without much issue. Oh, we got really lucky in the fact that she did not get confused on Taika there, because that would have been ugly. And that's not excellent. That should be it. All right, dope. We did it. Thank gosh. Now we need to run back to the... Oh, man. We're a little slow, but it's okay. We'll save time in the grind section in a minute. But the one thing that is a relatively recent addition to the route is the gun that Eamon is using. It's Benjo's blaster. Once your Uncle Benjo, the hammerhead shark-looking guy, gets carried away, he leaves behind his gun. Now, you can pick up that gun and use it on Eamon, and it does exploding damage, which Mushriga is actually weak to. which is really, really nice. That fight used to be even worse than it is now, believe it or not. That fight in TG, one that's coming up a little bit later on, were 20% success rate at best, and now obviously they're almost safe enough to do in a marathon, so that's nice. But we are going to move on to Aderin, though. And one thing before we get to her I want to ask Snowcastle about is, it seems like there was an Aderin fight before this one initially, like before you received Taika in the original version of the game. Is there a reason, or is it just simply difficulty that forced you guys to think that maybe you needed less Aderin in this one?
There was after defeating the Gob King, the next boss, literally 5 minutes after, was one of the toughest ones in the game. So we decided that might be a bit too harsh on players. So that's why you get the cutscene by the lift, where she threatens to attack you, but is outnumbered and then runs away. So we still have a slight nod to the removed boss fight, but yeah, it was because it was too much too early on.
I'm not gonna lie to you, it makes a lot of sense, because this fight in and of itself was insanely difficult. Did I save just now? Doesn't matter, we're gonna win first try. Whew. Get hot in here to anybody else? But this fight used to be the fight. It was unbearable. It was so hard, to the point where I would just grind those mushrooms you saw me fight early on. I would grind those out until ooh, that was really good. I would grind those out until we were at a level I felt like was strong enough to deal with Aderin. Ooh, its stun is nice. But here we're going to utilize Ive's ability to heal. It's called First Aid. It does like a percentage of HP. We're also going to utilize Eamon real quick to do a Spud Blast and hopefully get rid of those guys in the back line. Now we're going to go into a mode of battle you're going to see for most of the game called Do Whatever You Can to make sure that Taika never dies. And it's really that easy, idea-wise, in theory. So we just throw everything we can on Taika, because Taika is Bae. And we're using an ability called Quake right now. Now, the reason I'm using Quake is because story-wise, you get an item that increases your earth damage, and so it makes sense to use. On top of that, Quake has the ability to put a stun effect on characters that aren't bosses. Like obviously Aderin herself is immune, but like those guys that were behind her were susceptible to stun, and it did stun one of them. So it's really nice, especially for the tournament section that will be coming up in a little bit. But Eamon's accuracy is terrible in this fight. It always is. One more Quake with Taika should do it. She has a lot of AoE, and she was actually really nice. That went really well.
Yeah, nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah. Yeah, if only you knew, man. Actually, with the Mushriga EXP, that fight is a lot more reasonable. So thank you. It's good and bad that we meet the Mushriga donation incentive. I think it's probably faster for Aderin, but slower for Mushriga kind of thing. So it breaks even. But that fight used to be like, if you weren't level at least 11 or 10 or 11 or 12, there was no way you would ever get by it. But even though we have not rested and we're all still pretty low HP, we're gonna go through this room by safely interacting with all of the enemies that you see manually. Like we're gonna trigger the fights. That one I can just outrun, but that is another huge feature that I really love about this game. You can initiate a fight to guarantee you're going to take the first turn, and then you can run away right away. So it allows you to kind of like utilize enemies to traverse safely through certain dungeons and things like that. But while we're here, we're looking for a blue beetle that's going to be somewhere out here in the grass. We need to learn a spell from it, which is something we did early on. Quake, like I was mentioning earlier, Quake has the ability to stun and whatnot, but it's a learned ability. So think of Taika. Oh, perfect. Over here it'll work. Think of Taika as like a blue mage in this game, where she learns the abilities of other enemies. Right here we just learned lightning and gust, and now we're going to just take off. If Taika goes last, we have to run from the fight and then restart it, because obviously if she takes her turn and learns an ability, then then they're just going to beat us up because we're still low HP. But lightning is very important. Quake is very important. There are some other spells that Taika can learn, but we are not going to learn them because they don't benefit us in the run. Lightning and Earth, as much as they help us out with the DOTs they provide and the effects that they can attribute to enemies, they also help us out because Earthmaster, a story-required talent, increases the damage of Quake, and Taika's base weapon that she comes with increases her damage to lightning a little bit as well. So here we are in Suvia, though, the beautiful city in the game. It's kind of like the hub, the head of government and whatnot. It's where the historical society and things like that are, and we will see a lot of really neat and interesting little things about Suvia here in a little bit. But Casa, yeah, go ahead, man.
We were wondering, did you ever try routing the game with any of the other characters outside of Taika, or was Taika ever not in your party?
Yeah, actually. So the first run I ever did was about 7 hours, and in that run I used Olia, and I had no Taika in the party. And the reason that I did that was Olia gets a lot of party buffs for melee-based damage, things that she has like a critical hit rate increase and such. And because I had already invested in her early on, by the time she returns, which is right now, she was a higher level. However, the issue is, and one big thing, and the reason that Curse is as broken as it is, which is something we'll get into once we actually see it, but for now I'll just kind of explain it. Any damage that's not Curse is capped out at 9999, which is not uncommon for video games to have a damage cap like that. So you can only buff your characters to a certain degree. Now, Curse actually works a little bit different, I came to realize, in that it technically counts as 4 different individual instances of damage. Now, even if each one only hits for 5,000 as opposed to 9,000, you're looking at 20,000 after all 4 of those ticks have gone off, as opposed to the 99.99 or whatever. But the first route, yeah, I used Olia. It took a really long time. Every route after that has actually utilized Taika, and has obviously seen a lot more success.
Part 2 of the question is, did you ever utilize any of the other characters with Taika in the party?
Yeah, I did. I tried to use Pat as her Pat's ability to Pat as a character we'll obtain a little bit later in the game. He has a really neat overworld mechanic, but I tried to see if like the buffs and different bonds and stuff like that would work. With Pat has a couple of pretty interesting, unique things that he does, and I just found that this setup was the most ideal. Obviously, Nart and Taika are indispensable. Olia has a unique ability that when she is partnered with Nart at a really high level of bond, she gives the ability when she first aids somebody, they can get hasted. So that support utility I liked a lot. The only person that could potentially be removable would be Eamon, the main character. And he provides a little bit of bleed and a little bit of damage in certain places that I found him to just be a little bit more useful than Pat and Olia.
Right. Okay, interesting. I wanted to say that we had on your Discord a lot of questions asked about different various things, and we talked about Easter eggs. And one of the Easter eggs in this game is that in this library on one of the shelves, we have kind of encrypted the devs' names into one of the scriptures, if you didn't know that.
No, I didn't. Which one is it?
Yo. Library. It's a book somewhere there.
It's a
I
book.
think it's on the right-hand side, upper floor, I think it should be.
Yeah.
Oh, in the main area then.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll have to go take it. We'll give it a try. But yeah, there is a lot of, obviously there might be some things about this game that even I haven't gotten down to like a min-max level. Potentially I've considered it. Self-destruct with Pat is another thing, but the damage cap on that and stuff still applies. So currently, right now, the route is potentially sub 3 hour run, the way that it is without any kind of changes. But, as most speed runs, I will never be the person to tell you that a speed run is fully optimized, because there's a lot of games that get dropped, much lower than we ever thought was possible, including this one. After my first run of this, I never thought that sub 3 hours would be on the horizon. It's a funny story. When I completed my first 7 hour run, I tweeted it to Snowcastle, and I think they liked it or something. And I was like, no, they're not impressed. So the very next one was like 4.5 hours. And then they liked it, and they were like, wow, that's actually really good. I was like, we did it. We won them over. But now that I hear that you guys were saying like 15 hours and 10 hours and stuff, I'm like, 7 hours wasn't that bad.
No, that's true.
It was
But
really-
we never tried to like really speedrun it that much. I guess like we worked on tactics and strategies the most.
Mhm.
I guess we worked on speedruns as well.
Yeah, and we still had to test a lot of the functions. We had to make sure that there were no typos in the game or missing text and stuff. So we had to read. We couldn't just skip through all the text, and that adds a lot of time just by reading the text.
So what you're saying is you guys weren't as good because you have like a real job you had to do.
So,
How lame. But no, I totally respect it. And again, it cannot be understated. Like your strategies and whatnot, you guys definitely helped me out a lot with. Funny story, this dungeon right here is a recent trick that, and anytime I come up with a new trick, I always send it to these guys, and I'm like, look. And thankfully, not yet have they been like, oh my God, please stop. But I like to think that they go into their office and they're like, oh, Palmer's messaging me again. And I'm like, dude, just block him.
No. I mean, after watching the stream, I actually kind of want to start playing Earthlock again. Like, even after all the QA testing and all, like, playing it for hours and hours every day, like, all the time. It's, yeah, I kind of want to try this out myself. Just try to speedrun it.
Do
Would be
it.
interesting. Yeah, wouldn't stand a
You know,
chance.
we got a really large leaderboard of just me, but I'm willing to consider your acceptance, so.
Yeah, I have some unchecked bugs. So, yeah.
But
Might even
this game is an amazing speedrun, it really is. So if you guys are interested in a great speed game, it's on a ton of different consoles. Hit me up, tweet at Snowcastle something. I would love to have you in the community. Oh, so right here, what we're doing is an unintended trick. I'm going to do it a couple different times, but the way that it works is that there's these steam pipes, and you're supposed to turn these dials, in order to affect where the steam is coming up out of these little grates. However, I found out one day that you can actually just initiate a combat, immediately flee, and as soon as you are out of combat, you can run really fast. And occasionally, you'll beat the steam before it loads into the overworld. It's really odd. Sometimes it's one try. There you go. Nice. Oh yes, thank you so much. Don't clap yet, though. We're about to have to do it a couple more times. And then recently, once I realized that's how that one worked, I came over here and figured out that we can actually skip the worst section of this dungeon. And these types of enemies, I don't like them. They're very difficult. Some of the status debuffs they do can really, really slow you down. So thankfully, we have this new skip right here. Let's see if I can get it. All right, cool. You want to, obviously, it goes without saying, get as close to the steam as possible, although sometimes you can be too close to it. Nice. Okay, so we have one more steam that we need to get through. But because of the way the game works, it puts you on the other side of that steam right there, so we don't have to do it twice there, thankfully. We do, however, have to do it right here at the very last one. Oh, I ran too far forward. Wait, did you say, huh?
Looks like
Yeah,
showing us the trick.
Yeah, I didn't know that last skip. That's not supposed to happen at all.
And there you go.
that one.
Yeah, we'll fix it. Don't worry.
We'll fix it. Please don't. but there you go. So I haven't actually tested like different consoles with different load speeds and things like that. I don't know if that trick is PS4 or PC or really anything with like a faster load time specific. It very well could be. But it is a really neat trick, and it allows you, saves about 1.5 minutes of going through that dungeon perfectly. Like if you, but there are some other like little puzzle elements in that dungeon that you can absolutely screw up. So outside of that, it gives you that opportunity as well. So it's a really neat trick. I like it a lot. But here is where we will actually get the Frog Nart skin. I think I remember which box it's in, and if I'm wrong, we'll just have to open them all. But
I
it's,
think you have a fairly new skip in this section from the last run I saw you do. Is that correct?
oh yeah, the it's not necessarily new. I'm just really bad at it. So sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't. But we're gonna try it for sure.
Well, it's interesting. Oystein here is the one who designed the warehouse. I don't know if he's seen it yet.
Oh yeah, well, shield your eyes.
Yeah.
He's shaking.
This one is full of frog costumes. Yay, we did it. There it is. Thank you guys so much for donating. Seriously, again. We now have Nart looking just like me and Frog Boy. It's a really cool skin. People usually, you don't lose a whole lot of time picking it up either, so sometimes I pick it up in runs just for the lulz. But the skip that they're referring to is actually right here. We'll try it until we get it. I mean, it's funny looking and it's neat. It only really saves a handful of seconds, and if you don't get it the first try, you basically break even. Any try after a second or third, you're definitely losing time, but we're going to do it just for the lulz. You have to come at this platform here at an angle and follow it. Oh, almost. We'll try it until we get it, like I said. But what will happen is you'll notice that the terrain over here is a little different. You can come a little bit further. And it's easier to do with smaller characters, I've come to find out. There we go, perfect. And you can actually skip having to ride that all the way to the end, walk, and then come back around here. You can just have it knock you down to the ground and get to the lever a little bit more quickly. So.
Yeah, I knew that was possible in like the middle, right here. It's also possible to do that thing, and I think I fixed that one. But the one you used was new to me. So another good find.
Yeah, the one in the middle, you absolutely like. You can still kind of like get out of bounds, but the game immediately pushes you back in once you cross like a certain point. Because initially I figured that maybe I could do it early and skip this entire area, but unfortunately that's not the case. I mean, unfortunately for me, I'm sure you guys are probably pretty glad that people aren't just skipping through everything. But right now we're in Suvia. We're going back. We've completed this dungeon that's here. It's my least favorite dungeon in the game, so thankfully we're done. We don't fight any bosses or anything like that, but we did get an ancient machine part. Now, as the story goes, and feel free to correct me because this is where I start to become a little less well-versed, but these ancient machine parts we need to basically build our new character who we'll be getting here in a little bit, Pat. He's a machine of an ancient time period, which I will revisit as we get a little deeper into the lore later on. But this ancient machine that we're going to put together is going to give us the ability to translate a lot of really old technology and old books and what have you, in an effort to know more. I mean, it's a historical society, but what is the significance of Pat Snowcastle? I'm sure you guys could give a much better explanation than I did.
Oh, Pat is from the ancient civilization called the Valvers, which the cutscene you skipped in the very beginning tells the quick summed up story of how the Valvers came to pass, took control, and then disaster happened. Pat is one of the last remnants of that era. So he is the only one that can translate tablets that you find that are also from that time. Yeah, he's just an ancient machine.
He's a cool guy. He runs real fast. We like him, but he also blows up, which is a novelty. It's pretty interesting. But to the point they were mentioning, because we have a grind section here that we're about to do, I guess I will explain a little bit better about that ancient civilization we keep mentioning. And now Snowcastle obviously interrupts me at any point if what I'm saying is completely inaccurate, but the way that it worked is a long time ago there were these ancient powers that were extremely powerful, and they were at war with one another, and their war was putting everybody who lived on the earth in a very, like, it was wreaking havoc as a result of this war. And the fallout was so bad, in fact, that it actually stopped the earth from being able to spin, which is why you get the title from the game Earthlock. Now the way that works is that you're in this situation where on one side of the earth it's exposed to this extreme heat, and on the other side of the earth it's exposed to the bitter cold, which is why you have things like the desert and Karba, which we'll see a little bit later on. So that was almost right, yeah?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Nice. But this is the Saber tournament. I'll explain it really quickly. The way that this works is that you come into here, and there's 5 rounds. And each round is going to have enemies unique to that specific round. Now, we want to take every single encounter with every single enemy in each round in one singular encounter. And doing so gives you a... oh, nice. Doing so gives you... nice. Doing so gives you a huge EXP bonus that we really, really need. So I like that a lot. It makes us faster. But this is where we're going to grind EXP. We're going to do 5 rounds in Saber 2 times, and then 5 rounds in Suvia 2 times. So for the next 8 or 9 minutes, it'll be mostly grinding. There is a specific way to do it that I'll kind of touch on as I do it. But Casa, this is a great time. If you do have any donations, man, feel free to take it away.
Definitely, I have a few here. I have a $10 donation from RDP234 that says, first Ni no Kuni, and now Earthlock. 2 for 2 for really good games I should go play after seeing you run. And I'm sure that when Thousand Arms gets into RPG Limit Break 2020, it will no doubt make it 3 for 3. We have a $10 donation from Kios Little Monster that says, as promised, dab.
Thank you, Ben.
We have a $20 donation from Moonblaze Wolf. And a $50 donation from Anonymous that says $50 towards Runner's Choice. Here's hoping he knows what his choices are. I have a $25 donation from iSnipe151. The comment says, Frog Boy, hey Nart, why can't you run through a campsite? Nart says, why? Frog Boy, you can only ran. It's past tense.
Oh, I get it. God, what? No, stop laughing, guys. Snow Castle is well known on their Twitter game, and even in this game there are some cheeky little puns. So Keishura especially, Snow Castle, like between the two of them, it's like anytime I see them tweet, I'm like, well, this is either something really neat that I'm gonna read or something I'm gonna be very, very disappointed in. So.
It's worth mentioning that my humor has gotten way worse over the years.
You say worse, but I say better. We have a $10 donation from Chai that says, first time catching RPG Limit Break. Lots of fun to watch and all towards a great cause. Keep up the great work and looking forward to the Final Fantasy X run. We have a $25 donation from Traditionology. Someone get this poor man some coffee. Hashtag thanks for the pizza.
What's that about? I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm curious about the pizza as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I walked in and they were like, we have pizza. And I was like, all right. But now they're all like, thanks for the pizza. Did I pay for it somehow? Do you guys have my credit card?
Speaking of which, we have another $25 donation from Hotbot that says, good luck, Palmer. Hashtag thanks for the pizza. Are you sure you didn't pay for this pizza?
Yeah, no, I don't know, man. I'm actually a little concerned. But right here is, you'll probably notice that I've been holding on to Taika's bond, and it's for this reason. This fight gets ugly, but when you have Taika at full bond, you can make quick work of it. I did pick up the Sweet Dreams right there, and in this joke of a final round, I'll kind of explain why. What you do here is you can do damage, and with the 4th character that's going to attack, which is going to be Nart, which is going to be excellent, you can put these enemies to sleep. Now, as long as you do only elemental damage, these guys will not wake up. So Eamon we can't attack with, but by attacking in this fashion, it allows us to get an EXP bonus called took no damage, essentially. So that's what we're doing. But keep going, Casa. If you got some more, man, feel free.
I have a few here. I have a $10 donation from Chrono Crosser that says, if Snow Castle devs can stay up late for this run, so can I. I have a... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, nothing. It's good.
Alrighty, we have a $15 donation from Superintendent Chalmers. I'm going to butcher this, so have fun, everybody. Professor Palmer playing Earthlock at this time of year, at this time of day, in that part of the country, localized entirely on the RPG Limit Break stream? Money to Professor Palmer's choice.
Thank you so much for all your donations, all of you guys, really. So I accidentally did damage at the end that I thought would kill, and it didn't. So with the not taking any damage EXP buff is marginal. I usually do it because, like, why not? So it's not going to hurt us at all, but it's silly, man. I've managed to screw up. I explain it, and then I screwed it up. That kind of made me giggle a little bit, but here what we're going to do is we're going to do very specifically, we're going to equip Bonds of Battle on Taika. Now, we can absolutely not screw that up. We're also going to remove the HP, and we're going to go to Nart and get energized. Wait, can we put health on him twice? Oh, no. Duh. Anyways, so we need energized because it'll allow Taika to do a lot more damage whenever he... Here we go. Oh, that looks right. And then I absolutely have to make sure that these two right here are bonded together. And I'm going to save just to be safe. But from this point forward, we're going to... The party that you see and the order that you see it is what we're going to finish the rest of the game with. But it's imperative you don't screw this section up. Bonds of Battle that I put on Taika is a talent that allows... Every time he takes damage, it contributes to your bond meter as opposed to just when he's taking actions. And that helps a lot to get off more bond attacks, especially early on when it's more impactful. But otherwise, we're doing the Suvia one more time. So, Casa, if you have more things to say, you're absolutely welcome to.
I have a few more here. I have a $5 donation from Shawnee71884 that says, "Hey Palmer, best of luck on the run. Donation goes to Palmer's choice. What is your choice at the moment, by the way?"
My choice at the moment is whatever the Final Fantasy singing business is.
Singing's already been met, so let's try another one.
Ooh. What is available in Final Fantasy?
Well, we actually have a few here. We have the Final Fantasy X Audio Glitch Showcase. If you want to see something spooky during Final Fantasy X, that's definitely up your alley. You should definitely donate towards that. Or, if you want to get your name in there and get a little notoriety, you could always put some money towards naming any of the Aeons, such as Valivor, Ifrit, Ixion, Shiva, or Bahamut, or even naming the main unit himself, Tidus, to anything else.
Yeah.
I definitely prefer Potato.
Yeah, I'll do Runner's Choice. We'll do the Glitch Showcase. Right? Is that a thing? Anyways, also I had prepared Snow Castle. We had previously discussed some questions in Discord, man. If you want to, read off some of those, you guys are more than welcome to, and we can discuss those a little bit while the rest of this round finishes.
Oh yeah, sure. Well, we have some questions about the old game. Why did I've changed so much from the original design? Maybe one of the other guys can answer that.
Oh, throughout the development of Earthlock, which ran, 8 years, more or less, kind of. So we've had multiple designs on all the characters. I don't know what specific changes they're referring to, but looking at the marketing material from the, older version of the game, I think it was more a uniform design that would sort of fit the artistic style of all the characters, making them fit into one world instead of having stylistic characters that seem from different planets, so to speak. But yeah, I guess all the characters have at least 2 or 3 or even 4 redesigns, complete redesigns.
I guess one of the questions that we see the most is why did we decide to rework the game and release an extended edition?
Oh, that's a big one. So the weird thing is when we released Festival of Magic, there were a lot of cuts that had to be made, especially to the story of the game. So Festival of Magic, that part of the title was sort of an antiquated part of it. So when the game was finally released and the Festival of Magic kind of being the arena you're actually playing right now, sort of lost focus. It was supposed to be way more sort of centric around the arenas themselves or the festival itself. So once the game released, we felt that we were proud of having released our first big game, but then as the reviews were coming in and we were sort of realizing more and more that the game's focus has kind of shifted, because at that point we were already in sort of looking at development for Earthlock 2. We came to the realization that we should probably go back and fix it, basically sort of cut out the lingering feeling of what we should have done to the game even after it released. So, I mean, we were happy with the game, but it sort of, should have switched over to something else. So yeah, and we wanted to create a stronger foundation for Earthlock as an IP, not just the game itself. And it was important to us that it was made free to the people that already owned the game. So once we started having a look at what needed to be done, and we were also looking at getting the game out on the Switch, it made sense to go back and sort of, through the optimization done for the Switch, we might as well do the changes to the story and add animations, seeing as we had an in-house animator in place, and sort of make overall improvements to the game.
Yeah, and it is not an understatement. The improvements that are made to the game are like, anybody in chat right now that has actually like played both versions can speak for the difference in quality from one version of the game to the other. It's quite significant. It's definitely, obviously, more up my alley because it's faster, but it's also just the quality of life, and a lot of the things that were added or taken away at the same time were both like, you know, and it's nice to see. Not only was it significant changes made to a game that was already out on shelves, it could have very easily just been like, you know, just move on to the next, and you know, we'll do better next time. Instead of everybody who already owned it got the free upgraded version, and you know, they got an upgraded version. So I think that says a lot about Snowcastle, and that they cared about Earthlock instead of just, you know, the you know, a lot of times you'll see a dev just move on from one game they've created into another without showing that kind of interest in making that game, you know, a lot better. So I'm kind of saying a lot of things, being a little redundant, but you guys in chat, I'm sure, get what I'm saying. And if you have played the game, then you know exactly what I'm saying. But we are done with the first grinding section. We are going to come here to this next fight. I'm going to menu later. There's no point in doing it now. We're going to go to Suvia as if we were going to do the tournament there, and like they had just mentioned, the Festival of Magic is what these tournaments are called, right? The Festival of Magic is like the strongest warrior who can win kind of thing, and it is a focal point in the game, but I absolutely can agree with the fact that it doesn't feel like it's this Festival of Magic and the game built around it. It just feels like, you know, part of your journey along the way. So I think that the Earthlock without the Festival of Magic title is a lot more fitting. You know, and naturally I prefer this version of the game as opposed to the other. But one interesting thing is that the Festival of Magic did actually have a speed run, and it utilized a really broken Xbox 1.0 version glitch that allowed you to infinitely scale your attack or whatever skill tile. And even still, that run only got down to about 4 hours. And the reason for that is some other changes that were made in this HD version as well. But I wanted to ask you guys about that. Like, how long did it take before you guys realized that Xbox thing existed, or was it so long ago that you guys don't remember or weren't part of the company at the time?
I remember the bug. You were able to put down a stat tile and then pick it up again, switch character and put it down, and it would remember the stats, and it will just keep adding on it. So you could run around with doing 9,000 damage on level 1.
Yeah, you could.
But I can't remember when we found it. But it was after the game was released, that's for sure. So we had to do a quick figuring out how to fix it and then patch every console. And we also got some feedback on people who were annoyed that we broke their game because they were suddenly underpowered.
Yeah. Yeah, how dare you guys fix this? Oh my goodness.
I need to interrupt for just 1 second. We have a $50 donation from Nick from Snowcastle Games that says, "Hey Palmer, thanks for the pizza. It's pretty expensive here in Norway."
Wow. You're really feeding into it, aren't you?
I've got another one here if you want it.
Hey guys. Yeah, no, absolutely. Go ahead, Casa.
I have a $5 donation from Kio's Little Monster that says, "Hey Carrie, thanks for the pizza."
You're welcome.
We have a $10 donation from Ranger that says, "Let's start a $10 train to help Palmer get his way to the $1,000 incentive. I'll start it off." And a $10 donation from Twilight Dust that says, I remember getting this game soon after it came out as Festival of Magic, and a while back I saw that it had relaunched and never bothered to check it out. After seeing it featured here, I'm inspired to check it out again. Donation's going to naming Shiva, Valifor, in Final Fantasy X. That won't be confusing whatsoever.
That's actually pretty funny. So now we have Pat, and he's not useful to us primarily because he comes in at a super low level and we would have to then grind him back out. But he is useful to us in the sense that he comes with a bunch of really good tiles, so we're just going to steal all of them from him. And then we're going to... no, that's really it. We're just going to steal him and then forget about him. But he is useful in the sense that he has a... Ooh, I should have done more armor. He is useful in the sense that he has a really, really quick movement speed on off screen, and that's really, really beneficial to us. As you can see right here, he scoots. I'm not gonna lie, I did a lot of speed runs before Snowcastle was like, hey, you guys, you know that you can just run way faster by using Pat, right? And I was like, really? And it ended up saving like 12, 13 minutes or something like that by itself. So it was a group project route in this game. You know, it wasn't supposed to be, but I appreciate you guys for helping me out in that respect for sure. Alrighty, so story-wise, I'll kind of catch you up since we've been a little void of story. What's happening here is the Adarin, who I didn't really explain too well previously. She is basically a mercenary for hire. I got it out. A mercenary for hire. I like to think of her as like the Foot from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like the Foot Clan. And this government guy that works in Suvia, and actually like Snowcastle would know better than I, but I believe like one of the higher ups within the Suvian military has betrayed them and hired Adarin to go and acquire this relic that Eamon scavenged. You remember from the beginning of the game, and when he did so, it apparently has like great potential power to it that is being underutilized by us. Well, Ichibo, the guy who has hired Adarin as well as the rest of them to come and take it from us, he wants to utilize it in order to become very, very powerful. Well, already he has used it once he defeated us there. Or I don't know how he got Ichibo, or how Ichibo got Bryn under his control. Snowcastle could probably do a better job of explaining all that if you guys want to take that away.
In the beginning of the game, there's a small cutscene where Ikubo is talking to a guard saying that they captured the subject and moved into the cells. And when you reach Suvia later in game, you see Ikubo carry a big helmet which he places on someone's head. That helmet lets Ikubo take control of Bryn and bend him into his will. So that's basically how he does that with some dark magic.
That makes sense. And, I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about as far as the helmet and everything, but I guess I was like, I just have mind control helmets. That's pretty wild. Ichibo is a bad dude, man. He is not only is he a bad dude in the sense of, he's a literal bad guy, but his ability to fight and all the things, we will naturally fight him. The time that he just insta-killed us was not the only time we will be dealing with him, but dude, he's rough. He's got some abilities on him that are no joke, and especially it's funny because the two last bosses in the game actually work perfectly around how we deal with fights now, which is this kind of pseudo Taika strategy that we're utilizing. But he has a whole bunch of different neat things he can do that I'll go ahead and kind of explain as we get closer to that. But let me finish this out. As you can see, I'm starting to move Ive to a more defensive armor and resilience style. And the reason I'm doing that is because she serves a better purpose as like a kind of support healer at this point for us, as opposed to an actual damage dealer. Her and Nart being bonded especially gives her a better opportunity to utilize more healy kind of utilities base things. This fight right here can end really, really quickly so long as all of these guys attack Taika. We need Taika to take damage here to fill up Bond so that Eamon can actually use his Bond charge here. But So far, we're not getting amazing luck on them doing damage to her. So what we're going to do is use Nart and... no, I guess we'll just shoot whoever. To use Nart and... oh, nice. And Ive to keep everybody propped up. Okay. We will still use Taika to do damage. I mean, she contributes, but this is the one fight where we actually need Eamon to contribute just a little bit more. And because, as you noticed, we do have like some extra characters with us right now. Those are just NPCs. We can't control them, but they do take a lot of damage as well, and it's kind of a bummer because it messes with your the order of your characters, and it cracks me up because sometimes I will accidentally haste one of those goober NPCs. But come on, Taika needs to take damage right here. Oh, that feels bad. Get rid of this one. So long as Taika takes... Oh, there it is. Wow. We can actually just do it like this. Nice. That was that went all right. But we got to go face Adarin again. She's actually... the next Adarin fight is easier than this one. And it's going to be the first time you see the absolute most broken thing in the entire game. And the reason that Taika is such bae. And as soon as we do it, I will let Snowcastle kind of talk about... I believe we had like some questions prepared about Curse and the way that it works. And, you know, if it was kind of a blind side or whatever. But first, we're going to go fight Adarin. As soon as we defeat her, we'll talk about Curse. But you guys got to see it in action first. It really is as magical as it sounds. And here we got Ichibo taken off. He's giggling, and after he got what he needed from Adarin, he leaves her behind to fight us. So here we go. We're going to continue our strategy of magic focusing with Nart. So you're going to hear him say, "Ah!" like a lot. So enjoy it. It's a really nice sound. We're going to use... Ooh, we should have changed stance with Eamon. Eamon from this point, especially in boss fights, is going to be utilizing... a bleed. But the way that Curse works is that it applies 4 DOTs, and as you can see, it does a ton of damage. Now, the interesting thing about it is that Curse doesn't actually check for damage until the... So, you put 4 debuffs on an enemy. That's how it works, right? Well, when it checks for damage is actually when that enemy takes its turn. So let's say, for instance, Taika casts Curse, and before Adarin takes her turn, Nart gets 3 magic buffs off. Well, until Adarin takes her turn and takes damage from those 4 procs, it's not going to check to see what Taika's magic stat is. So Taika's you're able to put it on like that, and we're just going to pass because she'll die. There you go, and that's Curse for you. It checks the magic stat of Taika when the damage is ticking, so you're able to squeeze in a couple extra buffs and amp that up just a little bit stronger, which is another reason why we like to have Nart super fast and Taika very slow. So, yeah, Snowcastle, Curse, was it something that you figured would be an issue from the beginning? Was it ever like, I know you guys said that it was way worse than it is now at a point, but can you elaborate on it a little bit?
Well, it's the last ability that Taika learns and therefore should be the most powerful one, and it's also, I think it's the most expensive ability in the game, armory-wise.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that it checks for all the damage buffs after it's been cast is not entirely intentional. You should probably check for how much damage it would do on the turn Curse is being cast instead of when the damage is actually dealt.
I think you guys made it perfectly, to be honest.
Well, yeah, no, it's supposed to be very powerful because unless you've learned abilities like Quake, Curse won't apply poison. So Curse will only apply the dots that Taika has learned the elemental of. So Curse can apply 1 dot or 5. That's how it is. So by powering Taika up, she will be very powerful.
Wait, so you're saying that there's an opportunity I could have Curse be stronger if I go and learn the rest of the spells?
Technically, yeah.
Ooh! That sounds dope. Oh, you know what? I always forget to do this part. We need, after that brief interaction with Adarin, we don't get a full heal, even though, because technically after Ichibo defeats us, we get a full heal because we're in like the infirmary. But here we don't. Oftentimes I'll die in the very first round of the next grind because because I forget to warp back just for the heal. But every time you warp back with a new character, you're going to gain a little scene where it kind of introduces this character's ability and usage on Plummet Island. I've and Taika digs at the beach. Pat here has the ability to translate things that you might find around the world. Ive is kind of responsible for this kind of historical room. It's basically a room full of trophies of all the quests and enemies you've defeated so far. Eamon can craft weapons, and Olia can craft talents, Nari can farm. Now, I think you can actually do all of those things with any of the characters, but that's kind of like each of their represented roles.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, that's exclusive for the new extended version of Earthlock. Like we wanted to put in a lot of effort into making the backstories of each character heard, and like the relationship between the characters. And that's something you can see if you go and talk to the different characters on the island. So you can go visit them while they work at their stations. You can see Eamon work the forge, or Ive reading in her library or outside her library, and talk to her to discuss things that are going on. Of course, you won't see that in the speedrun, but if you play the full game, you'll be able to discover more of their stories.
Alrighty. So here what I'm doing is I'm switching around the abilities. Now, one thing that's worth mentioning is that you do get strong... Oh, I hate this bug. There you go. You do get stronger, naturally, as you go through the harder tournament. So one huge time save in this route, as opposed to, I can't remember, I don't know if it worked like this in Festival of Magic. Snowcastle will correct me after I explain it, but what happens is when you go to these tournaments, this higher, more difficult one, you can only utilize your improved ammo, right? You can't utilize Spud Blast, you have to use Spud Blast Plus. And what happens is, though, in order for the game to not want to trap you, like if you just don't have those, whenever you come into here, it gives you a very limited amount of that ammunition that you're allowed to use. So I actually have never once farmed up Spuds this high of a level, but I've got them in my inventory. And they go away immediately as soon as you're done with the tournament, but it allows for me to skip out all of the gardening. We're done gardening. You won't see me do that again for the remainder of the game. And by the game feeding you this free ammunition, it allows me to be able to skip, gardening the resources I would need to be able to do these grind sections. So I don't know if you guys intended for it to work in that fashion, but it saved me a lot of time and a lot of stress, that's for sure.
The tournament actually gives you your own inventory. So if you check your inventory now, you wouldn't have any of the potions you had before entering. You get a limited amount of ammo and potions and resources that you need to finish the tournament. So you can't stock up and have.
Oh yeah, that's right. I get what you're saying. Yeah, so everything that you have on you you no longer have access to. It gives you a limited amount of things that you're going to be able to utilize. Now, casually, I can see where that would be actually limiting to make things more difficult. But in the speedrun setting, it works in the opposite, because it allows me to be able to get things that are a little bit better than what I got without having to put in the effort to then gain access to it.
Yes, that's an unintended speedrunner's boost, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely benefits me a lot. But Nick, if you had any more things that we had prepared, then you're more than welcome to share them with us.
Well, I was planning on saving this till we got to the actual brutal cold section of the game, but we had questions about the, well, not questions, but we thought about Norwegian words that we included in the game, or Norwegian influences. So we have an enemy that you haven't encountered yet called the Nafenlaus,
Yeah.
I think.
The naming of that basically means nameless in Norwegian, which
Old Norwegian.
Old Norwegian.
Old
Yeah.
Norwegian, yeah. There's something called Old
Yeah,
Norwegian. Yeah.
Nafen, which is name, loves, which is loose, I guess.
Yeah.
in a way.
And the other one is the revival items. Kiss of Lys. Lys is light in Norwegian.
Huh. Well, I was very low on light at the beginning of the game, so I'll remember that. There's also, you know, there's a lot of the Norwegian influence that I see in the game, especially like on the backers and stuff like that. But it's been interesting, and it's worth mentioning that this game is translated into like 13 different languages or something like that. So like, there really is no excuse if you have. Ooh, I don't want to do that. If you're interested in picking up the game and playing it, then you absolutely have the opportunity to play it in probably whatever language you speak. How difficult of a process was that for you guys to get this game in, you know, a billion different languages?
Well, I mean, the Norwegian translation we did in-house, obviously, because we can do that. Getting the translations in, I mean, it's a matter of sending off all the text in the game, which is about 60,000 lines of dialogue, or at least something along those lines. And then I'd say the biggest issue is just going through the text and making sure that it's there. So we try and build some debug tools that will allow us to run through the game and read all 12 or 13 versions of the language in one go. So we'd be able to look through the game or the cutscenes and be able to cycle through the dialogue and make sure everything's there. That being said, a game that for usual people takes around 20 to 25 hours to play through and then check all the languages there certainly made the QA process a bit more challenging. But as far as getting the translations in there, we have amazing programmers that make that task really easy for us. Yeah, wasn't that bad in the end. Although I did complain a lot in that process just because I sort of volunteered to do so.
No. How foolish of you. Yeah.
I'm opting out.
Yeah. But it is, you know, like that is something that is definitely a strong suit. I mean, I don't know of many games that I've played that have, you know, you can play and more than likely your native language is on there. Like I was skimming through them just the other day and I was blown away by the amount that was there. So if you're at home and you're like, well, you know, I only speak like this one specific language, then that's a bad excuse because this game is in just about all of them. I've come to find out, but that is really interesting. I appreciate you guys sharing that. We are doing a little bit longer of a grind, and I'm having to focus a little harder than I should here. So, Casa, if you got any kind of donations, my friend, you are more than welcome to share a few of them with us.
For sure. I actually have a anonymous $25 donation, a $250 donation from S. Royal. Unfortunately, there's no comment with that one, but thank you very much. And a $10 donation from Foud that says, #thanks for the pizza. Actually, to be correct, it says thanka for the pizza.
Oh, you're welcome.
I actually just want to talk a little bit about the prizes that are being offered if you are donating at this time. So if you donate a cumulative $100, you are entered to win a Nintendo Switch and RPG bundle. What that gets you is you get the Switch console itself, and you get the 4 games that are around in this event, actually. Octopath, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, The World Ends With You Final Remix, and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. Also, you're entered into the Earthlock prize pack if you donate any higher than $10, and that gets you the prize of the 2 prequel comic books signed by the entire Snow Castle dev team, and a digital copy of Earthlock on the system of your choice.
That's dope. I guess that's one thing I wanted to ask you guys about, is I have not read the comic myself. What is, can you guys explain kind of the significance of those comics and what those mean?
Well, the comics serve as the one that's out now is a prequel to this game actually, and it's one way to deliver some extra lore and also doing it in a comic book, which most of us love. So you know, I think we just wanted to make a comic book as well, and
Just
as I mentioned earlier, we want to build an IP, so it's trying to stretch ourselves across multiple platforms.
Yeah, no, I totally get that, and you know, if I had the means, I would just make my own comic books too. That's dope.
Also, the next comic book that we've announced, but it's not officially on sale yet is going to be more lore, and it takes place after this game. So that's more post Earthlock.
Is that potential to say after this game, maybe prequel of the next? Dun dun dun. Are you guys gonna play the 5th?
One way to find out.
Cool. Well, I am looking forward to it for sure. Casa, if you are you all good right now?
I've got a donation here. I have a $10 donation from Anonymous that says, "Good luck on the run. Donation goes to Runner's Choice."
Thank you so much. And again, that is to fulfill whatever Final Fantasy X stuff is going on. But so this is the first round of the Suvia. Now, naturally, this round is a lot more difficult, and the reason for that is that we're not really at a great level to deal with it. And there's 2 fights specifically that are extra bad. Now, I used to do 3 rounds of Suvia, but I recently realized that I don't necessarily need to. But this fight right here, the final fight in this, is actually pretty neat. We can use Ground Frost to make sure that the melee attacker cannot attack. We'll curse on the Guardess, which is the ranged magic dealer, and she'll die. So we should be able to kill this guy here before he can actually be unfrozen. There you go. You can see just how much Taika's damage is starting to scale up. It's getting really at hand. Oh man, we are in a really good EXP spot right now. Generally, with all the death, I'm usually kind of scared, but to do only 2 rounds. But right now, it looks like we will be able to manage just fine. Now I'm gonna do.
How are you doing in normal compared to your record time?
I think that the 2 deaths definitely set me back, but we're definitely coming in under estimate, so that's really beneficial.
I just wanted to throw out there that right now, if everybody in chat were to donate $2 each, we would be able to hit the $100,000 goal that we are able to, or rather that we are looking to hit in order to get Palmer to run those 3 100% categories. Remember, it's going to be for Earthlock, Crystal Bearers, and for Thousand Arms. Let's try and get all those $2 donations in. Let's get that train going.
Yeah, my record is I've finished the game in just at almost 30 minutes exactly, and that's not going to be really the case here. After we're done with the second round, it'll take probably about 40 minutes. So right around then, I'll have a good idea for how. But I have incorporated a lot of extra pickups, a couple extra shops, and things like that, just because I want to make absolutely sure that the run finishes, especially with this new taking less EXP, leaving Suvia's strategy, because Twisted Guardian definitely doesn't get any easier, that's for sure. So, but we'll cross that horrible bridge when we come to it. These guys right here, they're not so bad. Eamon is actually at a pretty unique spot right now where he has enough damage on him that he can usually one-shot these, and you're gonna see me prioritize getting enemies off the screen more so than spreading out damage. Naturally, Taika can do AoE damage just fine, but like I said previously, whenever there is fewer enemies, that means that AoE damage has fewer enemies that it needs to be split up amongst. So by getting rid of people on the screen, it makes Taika's damage do more to the enemies that are remaining. So you're gonna see me pass turns with Nart using rest and things like that in an effort to just save time on having to see him cast animations that I'm not going to need in order to kill a lot of these enemies. This fight right here is primarily the worst one in my opinion. I don't like it at all. It's so bad. And the reason for it is that these are kind of like an undead type of enemy, or at least the 4 of them are. So the way that I do it is that I will heal them. It's nice that Nart got to go first because I should be able to get rid of all of them with not quite enough damage yet, but. And at the same vein, these green-looking dudes that look like they're just moving pipes, those guys are. I mean, actually, all 4 of these enemies, you can kind of see below their HP the little indicator, and that makes them. They're actually immune to whatever elemental spell was most recently cast on them. So right now they're immune to Earth. I can't cast Earth, so on Taika's next turn I'll use Fire or Lightning. That's another reason why I really like to get Lightning, aside from it being useful later on. You could just get it later if you really wanted to, but it helps us out here as well, because there are times where Taika sometimes gets a couple extra turns and they're immune to everything I have, and I don't want to waste turns with Taika, but it definitely does slow this fight down, and this is easily my least favorite fight in the Suvia grind. However, you can see there's a massive night and day difference between, oh, that was so dumb of me. There's a massive night and day difference between how this fight went in the previous pass as opposed to this one, and the reason for that is that Nart has more bond charged with Olia now, which allows him to be able to have multiple uses of his special ability. So I was able to throw a heal to do a lot of damage to the guys on the enemy side, and at the same time I was able to there we go, dope. I was able to regen my own party, so the difficulty of that fight drops significantly in the second pass. Now this one right here, this fight is the reason that I save all of my bond on Taika and Eamon, because this fight is god-awful as well, but it has these two enemies here that can actually, oh nice, that can like cast a, it's called buffer, and it's like a damage buff, and it really slows down the fight. So what we'll do is we hit it with Eamon, we'll finish it off with Taika, and we move on to the next. And just like that, you're already in round 4. So naturally you can see just how the process speeds up quite a bit. But we are going to go into this one. These guys actually are pretty easy to kill. Generally, a good rule of thumb is that I would prefer to use bonds on fights where enemies are a little bit more plentiful. So if there's 5 enemies is a lot more reasonable than 8 when all of your ability to kill enemies is relegated to AoE magic, which is penalized by the more enemies that are on the screen. Alrighty. But this grind actually went incredibly well. This second pass. Oh. Open my stupid mouth.
Do we have some time for some donations?
Yeah, of course, man, of course.
Perfect. So the train has started. We got a $25 donation from Zellboy, a $5 donation from Hotbot, that says choo choo, hashtag thanks for the pizza, a $100 donation from Cold Candor that says, I've heard so much about this event, but never caught it live before. Excited to follow along for the last few days. Cheers. Next up, we have a $250 donation from Fabric Coaster. I've watched enough VODs of previous marathons to seem like this is a sensible amount to donate. Keep doing what you're doing. We also have a $10 donation from Ashy. Will Palmer also wear a black suit for Crystal Bears? Also, thanks for the pizza, my dude. And then we have an anonymous $20 donation that says, here's my and 9 other people's share to make Palmer run those games. We got you last year, we'll get you again.
No, please.
Good luck with the run. Money goes to Runner's Choice.
Well, thank you guys so much for those donations, seriously. Everybody donating, it's for a good cause. NAMI is especially in video game community, like a mental illness association. I think we can all relate to that on some way, shape, or form. So your donations not only, entertain me during my run, but they do a lot of good. So at least I invite you all to, if you do donate, you have the ability to do so. Remember that, you can go to bed a little bit prouder tonight knowing that you probably helped somebody a great deal. So
we have a $25 donation from IVN that says, first time watching, but I'm always happy to donate to a good cause. And we have a $5 donation from Hag. Unfortunately, there's no comment, but thank you very much, Hag.
Alrighty, so next up, now it's racing time. So it's funny because this game, like 35% of the game, I would say we have done so far, and it's taken us, this amount of time. Now that Taika is roided out, the remaining 70% or 65% is only going to take us like 40 minutes. It's disgusting to see just how nasty she can be to some of these bosses. I am going to save right quick just here for might as well. But this boss though actually has a neat little backstory. If I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the inspiration for this next boss actually came from like a drawing of a 10-year-old fan or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. During the Kickstarter process, we don't think I know the entire story, but we had a young fan draw a boss that they wanted to see in the game. and based off of that, it was taken in by the artists, and they sort of cleaned up the design a bit and made an actual 3D character out of it. And then it was so cool that we ended up sort of focusing on that boss fight as one of the more unique ones. Without saying too much, I guess the viewers will see how it ended up looking, but it is definitely one of the cooler ones, I'd say.
Oh
It's
yeah.
really similar to the original one as well. Like the original drawing is pretty much what you see in game, only 3D.
Yeah, I think the Kickstarter pledge was to make a optional boss, but we liked this one so much that he became one of the required bosses in the game.
Yeah, no, it is a really cool looking boss. That's why when I saw that info hit your guys' Twitter, I was blown away. I was like, man, it's creative and it's neat. I like it a lot. We got to make sure everybody's in the correct stance. You'll notice that everybody's got Bond 5 with each other. That's very good. That's exactly what we need. Bond in this game is actually not based off of EXP. It's based off of the number of enemies you've killed while paired with that person. So by skipping a round in Soviet, it could hurt us, but we're in a good spot. So, but yeah, this is the boss that we were just talking about. This is Tremblebone. He was the original design of a 10-year-old fan on Kickstarter, and he looks really dope, man. I gotta say, I like this boss a lot.
I think also the boy who drew this, he added some backstory, and if I remember correctly, the Tremblebone walks around in the desert collecting bones he finds and then adds them to himself. It's pretty dark for a 10-year-old boy.
Yeah, I was about to say, jeez Louise.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So we put him in a tree, because that's, well, yeah. It's exactly the same thing, but yeah. There he is.
All right, cool.
Something
That's
else
Tremblebone. Nice.
Something else we added to this game is that we have those trees you can plant. You probably won't see it in the speedrun, but you'll get like small travelings, we call them.
Travelings.
Basically small bosses running around, just like for the visual effect, basically. But they're fun.
Yeah, the trees are hilarious. Like in the process of routing the 100%, like I mentioned, you gotta get a lot of plants. It's one of the big trophies. I went and collected about as many plants as I could find and stuff, and some of them are real zany. I didn't know what they did, so I got like a bunch of the frog trees or whatever, and I planted them, and by the time I came back, like my entire garden was just like riddled with frogs everywhere, and I was like, what has happened?
Yeah, we've had a couple of bugs as well, where just the whole island gets swarmed by cats jumping around. Like now these.
Yeah.
Pretty entertaining.
That was definitely an optimization test, seeing if it could handle that many small critters running around.
Well, that's a pretty impressive. Imagine being like, all right, we need to test the game, guys. Y'all get into work. You're like, sit around. All right, today what we're doing is we need to fit every cat we can imagine into this screen and see if it's gonna hold up. That's like the craziest day of work I've ever heard. But
Definitely worth it.
oh yeah, no, and a lot of the silly plants are really neat. So if you guys do play casually, absolutely check them out. So now, as you can see, the progress of the game the pace of the game changes a ton. Now that we have our final party kind of in their final, like, what they're going to be, as far as bonds and their order and their gear and all that kind of stuff, or their talents rather. Now we're just blazing through it as fast as we can. We got to kill these Amries in an effort to. I should have probably cursed. It's okay. We have to kill these Amri in an attempt to just get their color. We actually don't need the EXP or anything like that. So you're gonna see, like I did earlier, just kill the Amri and then run away. That was an optimization I added into the route once I realized that that the actual color drops without you having to win the fight. You don't need to receive EXP or whatever. But here it's especially relevant because there are some things that are a little bit more annoying to deal with. But Taika is in a spot where she's kind of busted. Oh, there we go. So we make quick work of everything without really any kind of issue. We're also going to see a neat trick kind of take place here. We're going to set it up after we're done with the boss that we're going to go fight first. And that one is Franir, the next boss along this little rush. And the reason we're doing this boss rush is actually because story-wise, Ichibo and Bren, the guys you saw beat the life out of me a little bit ago at the, they have that ability called Devastate that you saw reduce my entire team to 2 HP before it defeated them. Now, in order to prevent yourself from being susceptible to that, you have to attain these talents, and the only way to get those talents is to have the High Owl craft them in Suvia. So what we're doing is we are going to each one of the bosses, and each one basically owns a key item that are needed to craft those. And then once we're done, we'll take them back to her, get them crafted, and move on to the final 2 bosses in the game. But it's funny, it's funny because the puzzle that the next boss, not the one we're dealing with now, but the puzzle that the next boss has in front of it is by far the longest in the game. It's very, like, it's a lot of work went into it. It's well designed and everything. It just takes a while. But one of the devs showed me a trick, and from showing me that trick, I was able to come up with an even more inclusive one that utilized a few more things. And now we get to skip the longer puzzle altogether, which is really beneficial. But first, before we get to that, we're going to get to Franir here. And we need to change Eamon because he is... Oh, no, we need that to stay the same. All right. We're at Franir, and he is the next guardian of the necessary requirement to craft these Aegis of Lys, the shield talents that we're going to need. But potentially, if there was a way to, like, whether it be a bug or a crazy strategy or what have you, if there was a way to make it past Ishibo and Bren 2 without utilizing the ability to have to get these little shields, it could potentially save a ton of time in the run. However, I tried a few different ideas, and it just doesn't seem like something that's realistic. And you would miss... I'm sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, it's actually been done though. Like it's possible to get past the second fight without the Lys Aegis talent, but
Really?
I'm not sure if you can. Yeah, we're like during QA testing by using, I think it's like the double KO talent. Is that what it's called?
And back again.
Yeah, back again. Yeah, right. That one and Curse, of course. It's actually possible if you're lucky to get past that battle without the Lys Aegis talent.
I need to work on a strat that does that. As improbable as it might be or as difficult, it would shave, like, technically probably 30, 40 minutes off the run. That would be madness.
The trick is that you have to die. Well, you'll die anyway the first attack, but then the talent will bring you back up, and then you have to kill Bryn before he does it again.
Yeah, exactly.
If you be able to do it, but it's difficult.
Yeah, it would probably like you would have to get everybody to max level via grinding up until that point, since you would be missing out on so much EXP and tiles and stuff like that from these bosses. So it feels like it might save time theoretically, but at the same time, you would have to invest a lot more into preparing to do that fight a certain ways that it might end up being a wash. But for now, you guys are going to see the standard traditional any % route with as few bugs and skips as possible. I don't think there's actually a single bug. Everything is just like abusing quote-unquote intended mechanics up until this point. But right here, you saw me pick up the red Amory charge. I'm actually going to take it with me. And just like you saw me do earlier, I'm going to... Just like you saw me do earlier, I'm going to take it from a different puzzle and use it at a puzzle later on. Now, real quick, I don't need it, actually. We'll be fine. I'll get it later. Real quick, I'm going to make a different stop at a place called the Underwater Station, and I'm going to touch the save totem there, not because I'm prepared to go into there or I need to, but because I want to be able to have the ability to warp there a little bit later on, as well as we're going to kill a barnacle along the way. But There's a reason a lot of the people in my chat and Snowcastles had a laugh about it as well, but the Twisted Guardian is the boss we will fight next, and he has his own horrible, he's terrifying. And the route initially, the YOLO strat as we call it now, it had like a less than a 20% chance of success, and it was faster than the one we have now, but it took me coming up with a brand new strategy and trying all kinds of different things to be able to make this game consistent enough that I could run it in a marathon because of just how bad Twisted Guardian is. Like, it's not that he's designed poorly. He's just hard to do at this level. Snowcastle, if you is of all the bosses in the game, if I had to guess, I would assume Twisted Guardian was probably the one that you hear people ask help for the most. Am I correct in assuming something like that?
That is very correct. Yeah, that's definitely the one people struggle the most with. We have gotten questions of who hurt us and who's the sadistic game designer who made that boss. He's very adamant at protecting his treasure. So he's
yeah, no doubt. Who hurt us? Were those asked in my Discord? Probably.
Among others.
yeah.
Yeah, we had to screen the Discord questions, that's for sure. But here's the next Barnacle in the game. He's actually way more reasonable. And it's worth mentioning that the reason you're seeing me cast First Aid with Ive is because it can actually add a haste effect now anytime. So even if somebody doesn't need HP, I'm going to keep casting it regardless in hopes that it's going to land. Oh, there it went. And as you can see, Curse, I put it on once, casted the buffs, and the Barnacle died before he got to take a turn. So that's rip the Barnacle. Let's get some Fs in chat for the Barnacle. Never stood a chance, poor guy.
Do we have a moment for a couple donations?
Of course. Go ahead.
All right, we got a $1 donation from Razor Flamekun. Hey, Palmer, I was able to check out your run for a bit. Good luck on your run. We have $2 from All Day Chasing saying, having fun watching the stream. Do the 100% runs come with a Bet On It song?
Sure.
We have an anonymous $25 donation with no comment at the moment. A anonymous $10 donation that says, Nami is an amazing organization that more people need to know about. Mental illness is a serious issue that affects more than just the person. I am very happy that RPG Limit Break has all these wonderful runners showcasing a large variety of games to benefit Nami. Thank you to everyone who makes this possible. Donation goes to Runner's Choice of the 100% games. Little Fishy donates $11. This has been really fun to watch. Enjoy the insight from the devs. Pizza Thankers donates $10 saying, keep up the good work, Palmer. Also, thanks for everything.
Pizza Thankers.
We have a couple of our Final Fantasy people. Dave Stereo donates $20 for Titus for Potato. Muttski donates $15 and says, hey, Palmer, cast Mornstar.
Oh, man, I got that one. Thank you, Kevin.
And we got a $50 donation from Fatman that says, Potato. Just to let you all know, right now, Titus's name has actually got $500 for I Ate Your Pie, and Potato is at $207. So if we want to see Titus get to Potato, you're going to have to donate a lot more money. So let's see that happen.
Yeah, my daughter, I tried to teach her to play Ni no Kuni, and there's a short video of it you can watch online. And I was yelling at her to cast Mornstar because it's the best spell in the game, and she refused to. So, naturally the 5-year-old was, it's a long time before she's gonna get a shot at the champ. Let's just leave it at that. But I'm gonna ride up this, and then I'm gonna ride back down. And the reason I'm doing that is because I like to save with this thing already completed. Because I drew these colors from places that don't originate here. I was able to skip all the puzzles except for the middle room. It's just pretty straightforward. However, I want all the colors to remain, so if I do die when I load, it's already done. I can just go right back up. Now, this is the issue, guys. This is the big bad man himself. We actually have to change a few things here on Eamon and Ive. So what I'm about to do is I'm going to remove some of the armor tiles and in their place put Might to slow her down a little bit. And the reason for that is that I need to put some of the armor on Eamon here. And that's because I need him to go take his turns a little bit faster. She needs Cloak as well. Generally, I want to have their speed close to 100. Also, Eamon has an equipment that makes him slower as well. So he's fast. They're both fast. Nart needs this. There's a lot of preparation that goes into this boss. Oops. And the reason for that is pretty simple. He'll beat the crap out of you, dude. He's rough. But we're going to go see how it goes first try. If we can get him first try, that would be super ideal for obviously a lot of reasons. But if not, don't fret. It's not that big a deal. He is oftentimes quite a pill. But the strategy for him is very unique. So what's going to take place here is he's going to cast a DOT, or like a debuff. And he's going to cast it on each one of our teammates. Now, what I'm going to do is put Eamon and Ive. Oh, please don't be on Eamon or Ive. All right, dope. I'm going to put them into Cloak, which makes them untargetable. So what happens is, once he puts the debuff on everybody... Okay, there we go. Once he puts the debuff on everybody, he will cast this huge AoE. Oh, yikes. That'll do a ton of damage. However, the way around that is to not have these people targetable, so he can't cast it. All he can do is randomly swing now and hope that he uncloaks those people in that fashion. So we're going to try to get as much damage as we can before he gets our people uncloaked. Now is a good time to curse. And it's for the record, it's worth mentioning that Cloak does not wear off if you use an item or an ability. Okay, yikes. So I need a Cloak again with him, which is a little bit of a shame. Yeah. Okay, so this is how we'll do it. This fight is very technical. A lot of effort goes into it. You got to be very careful about what you do. At this point, it's a little bit up to RNG. We really don't want Eamon to get uncloaked with one of the randomly targeting smashes. Okay. So we just got to hope that we can make it to Taika's turn one more time. In fact, we'll throw down some extra damage from these. Yes, we did it! Oh, yeah. Oh, thank God. Thank God. Well, Fire Trap did a lot more damage than I expected, and I forgot it's because I put some damage tiles on her. But good lord, that fight is rough. It's easily the hardest fight in the entire game. It's the only fight in the entire game I had to develop its own unique strategy for. Every time I go on the Earthlock subreddit, there seems to be a person. Like, if they're asking about trouble at a boss, it's always that one. And I send them a video that says pretty much the same thing I just told you guys as I was explaining it there is, good luck. It's pretty much just how it works. But there is a couple things if you're at home, if you're wanting to play casually. First of all, you can do it at a higher level. This is a speed run, so we're obviously trying to do it as low as we can. You could realistically get to level 20 by grinding out Suvia a little more, fighting enemies in the world map. Another big thing is you can actually go and equip all the Earth talents, Earth Mastery Rune talent things on all of the talent boards. And that actually lessens your damage received by lightning damage by quite a bit. I think it's like 15% or 30% or something like that. And we have that on Taika because that's what we utilize to up Quake's damage. However, at the same time, if you went and crafted one and put one on everybody, it would actually give you enough resistance, even at my level, to survive Energy Harvest, which fortunately we didn't see or we would have been dead. But that's my second tidbit of information. The first is to level yourself up, and the second is to go craft those talents. Now, crafting those talents takes a good deal of time because you got to gather up earth cores and stuff like that, which are scattered through chests all around the world. Oh, excuse me, and I don't want to have to deal with all that. So we just wing it. If I had a little bit more time, I would have YOLO stratted it and shown you guys what the old strat looked like, where you either win or lose by turn 3. But thank God we don't have to do that anymore. That's all I gotta say. But Snowcast, I just wanted to ask you in relation to Twisted Guardian here, like, what goes in is, there is something to be said that Earthlock as a whole, you guys intended for it to have a little bit more of a difficulty curve than I would call standard. But at the same time, like, what goes into making a boss like super difficult? Like, what goes into testing to think that, like, this guy is too hard, or no, this guy is perfectly fine? Like, I know that you mentioned it about Sharon earlier, but was there any difference in some of these later bosses, like in the end game, when levels start to play a little bit more of a factor?
Well, definitely we have an intended level or a minimum level you should be at different bosses, and then when you're this late into the game, as you said a moment ago, you can easily be level 20. So we had to test the boss on both the minimum level you can be and also the maximum. So Twist the Guardian is designed to be, I don't want to say impossible, almost impossible, very difficult, frustratingly difficult at the minimum level, and still difficult if you grind all the way to the maximum level, so you can't just breeze through the game. So it's definitely a challenge to do it that way, but I think it worked out for the better.
Yeah, because now it's almost like a rite of passage. Like people in my Discord, like it's a joke, Twisted Guardian. But if you stop Earthlock at Twisted Guardian, you just can't hang, bro. That's all it is.
It's definitely a test to make sure that the player's paying attention to the mechanics that have gone into the game. But there are a lot of assumptions to where the player's at that point in time.
Yeah, it is an absolutely zany fight, to say in the least. It's wild, but it's obviously very doable. I'm doing it far lower level than I probably realistically should be, and I don't mind it a whole bunch. But it is funny that it's kind of taken on a life of its own in as far as like this. Everybody in my chat is like, well, here's where the run dies, and it usually is. Like, if it dies anywhere, it's going to be there. So it's nice to make it over that hump in a marathon setting. But when the Snowcastle says that they absolutely intended for the game to be rather difficult, that's the thing that shines the most. He's a rough boss, man. But I guess another question I wanted to ask you guys is, was there a how, as far as like the developing and the assigning of roles and stuff like that, was there opportunities, or like was there a position where somebody was like, all right, well, you get to these three bosses and you get this one and this one, like, or was it pretty much just we're all working on all of these together as a cumulative group?
We're a pretty small company, so anyone can rock up to anyone's table and start commenting on whatever's going on their computer screen, basically. So we were all, as a company, sort of invested in every boss fight there was coming up, because it sort of drives home the point of the story plots as well as challenging the player. And the one thing that sort of connects all of us at the company is that we've all played RPGs and JRPGs growing up, so we all sort of have those fond memories of what boss fight we liked the most. So we'd always try and get the cooler aspects of those boss fights into our own designs, and definitely trying to get the entire sort of broad spectrum of those boss fights in. So as far as like where the design decision sort of came in, it's really hard to pinpoint which one person in the company sort of got their say on one boss specifically.
Yeah, so there's not like one person I can blame for it, I guess is what I was asking.
Well, for the Twisted Guardian, maybe that one person.
Yeah. Actually, our lead designer kind of took a stand on the Twisted Guardian, because I know I wanted to nerf him a bit, because I was just doing QA testing and I kept dying on the Twisted Guardian, and I got annoyed and said we have to nerf this guy because he's impossible. But he wanted it to be difficult. So I've also had my fair share of frustration over the Twisted Guardian.
I was just curious if I ever roll into Oslo, I could be like, it's your fault.
I think you could though.
Yeah, we'll supply you with pitchforks and torches, and we'll hunt them down.
Amazing.
It's a common misconception though that we're like a huge company and there's like a lot of people making decisions there, but we're actually not more than, how many are we now?
15?
15 people, and I guess we were less actually.
11 or 12 when we made Earthlock.
Yeah.
That's incredible, man.
Someone to blame for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like I said, if you guys are watching at home and interested in buying this game, absolutely don't let that deter you. We do it needlessly difficult. Like, it's way more difficult in the speedrun route. You absolutely don't need to do it the same way. You can make it a little easier on yourself, and it's not so bad. But that is definitely, like, if you make it past that, you come into my stream and tell me that, you get, like, instant respect. You know what I'm saying? So you're cool to our crew, because like I said, it's a trial by fire. It's a rite of passage. But it's funny at the same time because we go from Twisted Guardian, the nastiest, baddest dude to ever live, to this this giant joke of a train. And it's hilarious. So this guy dies so fast. Usually, if you're lucky, he'll die to a single curse. Oh, not quite. Generally, he dies to a single curse if Taika goes after Nart. But there you go. That's the next boss fight. As you can see, not even anywhere near the level of stress. And God bless. Thank you. You guys. Oh, wow. But that train enemy specifically, I wanted to ask, you know, where does that inspiration come from? Because I feel like trains in JRPGs as enemies feels like a pretty well-known and well-respected theme.
It was thematically thought out as a boss due to the fact that the underwater mile was sort of the connecting factor between the two biomes, and then they would be traveling via train, and then sort of having something utilize the entire train system as a defense mechanism. That's also why you see all the robots that have overrun the underwater mile as well. That was sort of our mech tech dungeon, and then basically out of that grew the fact that it would be really awesome to just fight a train.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, you can't suplex that train, but we actually, it's what we do is even cooler. We curse it, and we kill it with our dog. So I feel like that's pretty unique to this game.
There might also have been some inspiration from Final Fantasy VII, I'm sure. Like, I know the artists have played through it, and some of them really love it.
Oh, sure.
And, yeah, in Final Fantasy VII, I think you fight a house or something.
Yeah, there's.
So yeah, you fight a house, basically.
Well, Final Fantasy 7 and 9 were big sort of visual, like, not contributors, but inspirations for the game as well. It is more or less a love letter to the games we grew up playing.
Mm.
All right, well,
Yeah,
this... Oh, no, go ahead, man. Okay, this is the final barnacle in the game, thank God, because they are hardcore dudes, man. We're going to do the same thing we've been doing, which is to buff Taika up and pray that he challenges. He didn't challenge. That hurts. We might be all right. We just need Taika to take his turn really quickly and to keep him alive. That's generally the rule of thumb. Okay. I think we can survive this. Watch this bad boy right quick. As long as, if we get challenged here, we will absolutely win. And realistically, the only person who needs to all right, cool. The only person who needs to survive is Taika, and so that went really well. That's probably the next hardest boss in the whole game. Oh, thank you. You guys are too kind. Oh my gosh. For me, wow. The next boss is a reiteration of Chiron, the boss we fought in the desert, the Titan that has the two arms and his head is invincible until the arms have been defeated. However, he's way easier now, due largely in part to just how busted and how out of control Taika is. But so when you guys, Snowcastle, played the game, was Taika like I know that I've kind of asked this question in a different way already, but aside from Taika, were there other abilities and characters in the game that you were like, oh, this is absolutely has to be touched up, or the damage cap? Was like the damage cap in the game always something that you guys had in mind, or did that have to get put in as a way to fix a lot more problems with a more singular solution?
The damage cap was in fairly early, because that's since this is a tribute or very heavily influenced by old school RPGs, the damage cap was almost a necessity, we felt. When I did my numerous QA tests, I tried to change up the combinations of the characters, because I can't remember. There was one combination that was really, really good. I think it's Pat and Eamon, and if you have Eamon's electro gun, and Pat does electro bolt, and every time Pat casts an electro bolt, his turn gets pushed down, so he attacks faster and faster and faster
Yeah,
and faster.
he gets like this crazy stacking haste. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the best combinations I found, at least. So there are other options to Taika that we found as well. I think Taika might be the best one because of Curse.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Curse is Curse is dope, dude. I love it. And it's funny. So actually, the origination of how I figured out the origin, rather, I guess is a more adequate way of saying it. Please don't stun. The reason I found out about Curse in the first place was we were struggling, and I decided that I couldn't get past the final boss in this game. So I looked up some strategies online, and one of them was to use DOTs. So I literally found a Let's Play, which, as speedrunners here, is generally like a, we don't consider them as solid gamers always. But I did in fact steal the strategy that we use from a Let's Play, and it works really, really well. Taika does work with it. But, granted, they didn't use it in the Let's Play the same way I do. They use it basically more or less how it's supposed to be utilized, which is, obviously by using Curse, not casting all these multiplicatively stacking buffs and things like that. So it is neat to kind of see how strategies can evolve from situations where, they were so close to having the same killing pressure that I did, but, just small things like Nart's buff stacking the way that it does, as well as damage checking when the enemy takes its turn as opposed to when the spell is initially cast. Like, small things like that can make all the difference, and that's pretty wild to me. And that's really the only thing I notice in this game that can be pushed to the limit like that, because once again, the damage cap does a lot in the way of slowing you down. You can't necessarily glass cannon everything, and then Taika is the way that we can get around that, thankfully. But now we are done. I'm gonna actually run in here really quick and speak to this guy to shop a couple extra times. I should be fine, right? Yeah, whatever. And I'm shopping with him. I don't usually, but it's nice to have just a little bit more safety. I've been a little bit more liberal with how I'm utilizing my items, and just to make sure that I'm not having any issue. But now we get the list Aegis, and it is very, very important. So I can't say how many times I've actually come and gotten them and then forgot to equip them, and I died, and I lost runs to it. But we can do it like this. We need to have Taika loaded up with magic. As you can see, her talent board and all of their talent boards are starting to get a little out of control. That should be it. Yep. Okay, cool. So we're ready now to move on to the final two bosses in the game. Hopefully we can reel this in before too long. The next one is harder than the final one, in my opinion. This next one is called Valver Ichibo. Oh no, it's called Ichibo and Bren. Sorry, Valver Ichibo is going to eventually be the final boss, but this next fight has the unique ability to kind of dance around Curse and the way that we abuse it in fights, which stinks, naturally. Nunar Station, there we go. So right off the bat, Ichibo will open up with an ability called Iron Skin, which makes him and Bren immune to both physical and magical damage for 3 turns, 3 of their turns. So while that takes place, the only thing you can do is to kind of like bunker down and just try to like bust out your survivability and cast buffs with Nart. But at the same time, in the very next turn, he's going to use something called Sloth, which slows you. And he uses all kinds of stuff. He's basically the Taika, the epitome of like the anti-Taika strat. So sometimes it goes a couple ways. We're obviously going to save beforehand, but lately I've been starting to figure out the fight a little bit better. Hopefully we can sort it without a whole lot of difficulty. But there is a lot of merit in this next fight to a good turn order. So if Taika goes first, we can throw out a quick Quake. And squeeze in just a little bit of damage. Otherwise, we're going to do the fight ultimately the same way. There's not really a way to develop its own kind of unique strategy for this fight like there was for Twisted Guardian. Cloak is not necessarily something that works anywhere other than the style of fight that Twisted Guardian is. So here we're just going to bait these guys out. We're going to move forward. And this is actually an area that I invite you to explore if you're going to play casually. There's a lot that you can do here. It's a neat little place. But now that we save, we're going to go fight Ichibo and Bryn. This is the second to last boss. So let's hope that it goes well. He does have some dialogue real quick. But while this is taking place, Casa, if you got anything else to say, my friend, you are more than welcome to take it away.
Alrighty, we have a $10 donation from a Vile Tone that says, fantastic event as always, making my sleep schedule irrelevant for an entire week. Relatable. We also have a $100 anonymous donation with no comment. I just want to say that we probably have about like maybe 5-10 minutes to get to that 100,000 mark. If you really want to see Palmer live up to his promise on those 3 100% categories, I would like to see him do them too. So let's see what we can do, chat.
Okay, here's Devastate. This is usually the one that mixes things up for us a little bit. So the big thing is we don't want to use, we don't want to have to use Bond with either of our groups of people here. So hopefully he doesn't single out Taika. He did. That's not great. Now we just need to throw as much stuff as we can at Ichibo over here. He's got to go. Okay. What do I do? Every ounce of damage is really beneficial here. Hoping he dies. Nart, it's worth mentioning, has an ability. Oh, wow, Taika died, so that sucks. Might actually have to redo this fight then. Maybe not. So we're going to use First Aid Drop. I know that I said I try not to, but it's probably for the best. If we see Iron Skin again, then we're in really bad shape. But fortunately, it doesn't look like he's going to. Oh, okay. Well, we're probably not going to win now. Yeah. It's okay. We'll die and retry. Let's let ourselves die. I would actually rather do that than utilize all of the items I have here. But like I mentioned, this fight can go a bunch of different ways. So there's no shame in the game if we die here. Is that his last turn? Uh-oh. It's just you and me, boy. Ah, man. Look at all those turns. So we're probably going to die in this next one. That's fine. Cool. So Rip, get some Fs in chat for the crew. Fortunately, we do have the ability to save really quickly and load really quickly. And because this is a marathon, it's not going to be too big a deal. But what do I need to reassess? Okay, no, we're fine. We just need, there was 2 monumental misplays in there that really made me pay for it. The first one was allowing Taika to die by trying to press just a little bit more damage with Ive, and the value just wasn't there. But like I did mention, this fight is extra difficult. Snowcastle, if you don't mind my asking, the whole Devastate mechanic, is there like an interesting story to how that came to be, or how did you guys come up with something like that?
The Devastate mechanic itself, while gating the player at some point, is kind of a story ability, I'd say, to sort of further drive home the point that Bryn is such a powerful character. And Ikupo being able to mind control him sort of makes him the ultimate evil force in the game, being able to control something that powerful. And leading up to the end of the game, I guess you'll see how powerful Ikupo is in the end. But as a story move, that Devastate ability sort of plays into the fact that Bryn is an old and powerful being.
Yeah, it kind of gives you a glimpse of how powerful the Valvers actually were back in 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, he's a tough guy for sure. He's a rough dude. So we're gonna. This is the same mistake we made last time. We should be. Yeah, that one decision I think made the difference. So, but yeah, he is a no joke guy, man. He is. He's very for real. But fortunately, if we get rid of him, the remainder of the fight is actually not as difficult. All right, cool, brilliant. That's what we wanted to see. All right, execute obviously does what it sounds like and hurts, but now that we have... Oh, I need to probably throw a plus just to make sure that Taika doesn't die. Okay, brilliant, we got lucky. But now we're gonna do what we can by just utilizing Curse once more. You can see the crazy amount of buffs on Taika here. And Eamon as slow as can be right now as well, because, you know, with Might talents and Magic talents on Taika, he's a lot slower, and both of them are, than you would expect from these other two utility characters who have the tankier stats on them. So as long as Taika lives to see one more Curse, we are fine. And alrighty, that should be it. Oh my god. All right, that's the fight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. Wow. Yeah, that fight was rough. That fight was rough. But see what I did there? Rough, right? But he actually,
Sorry.
he was
Sorry.
so buffed that the Curse killed him in just one tick. That's kind of ridiculous, but we're gonna blaze through the rest of this content here, and we should finish right at the estimate.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that like the cinematic cutscenes you see here is also something that's new with the new game. It's like before, I don't think we had any cinematic cutscenes at all. So we figured that we wanted to give the story a bit more attention by adding, more interesting cutscenes. By the way, like this one, and the end one.
Yeah, this whole area here is pretty cool as well. I really like the puzzle mechanic that exists here. It's one of the neater ones I saw, or I remember from when I initially routed the game, and I was like, oh wow, this is pretty interesting. I screw it up literally every time I do it. Like, I never do it like perfectly optimally, but it is a weird one, and you know, it's definitely a lot of the puzzles in here. They have like the beautiful simplicity of not being as an idea, they're not difficult. Like, you can look at them and have a simple understanding of them, but the exploring of the puzzles, you know, can go a lot of different ways, and I like that you guys were able to balance that a little bit as well. But puzzles as a whole, like, are you guys people who believe that puzzles have a strong place in JRPGs as a whole?
Well, I mean, in general, puzzle mechanics like these, again, do sort of break off the monotony, if you will, of combat. And I mean, why not try it when making a game? Why not try adding a puzzle that can sort of spend some of the player's time racking different parts of their brain to get through the game?
I can understand that. I just, I'm terrible at puzzles, so maybe in the next one make them a little easier, please.
That one actually does have a hint mechanic somewhere, if I'm not mistaken.
A hint mechanic?
Yeah,
Well,
along the way from the beginning of this scene until you reach the puzzle, there's pillars, and they show the order of which...
That's right, yeah. They'll tell you. One day I need to read that. Yeah, one day I'll do that. I promise. Alrighty.
Or you can just...
Yeah, exactly. That's what I do. I just try it, and I'm like... And everybody who's watching at home that's never seen a run of it, that's exactly how you do it. Trust me. That was flawless execution. But, did I save? I saved, right? Yeah, sure. Whatever, we only got one try at this, it looks like. Just kidding. I'll go back and make sure that I save. Just because, you know, I can die. There's not a really good opportunity, and we don't have to watch the cutscene on the second time we come through here. But one thing that's funny is this area, before I knew that you could use Pat for increased movement speed, I was forced to take a fight in this area. And one of the Snowcastle members came to me and was like, if you use Pat, you can actually move quickly enough to be able to avoid those fights. Or if you take like a good enough line with your movement, which is good, because these might be some of the hardest fight. Like, these enemies here give you stupid amounts of EXP, but dude, they are so difficult. Especially in the route when I have exactly how many items I need. Oh, yes. All right, cool. That's the only spot that you need to worry about it. But these guys here, they're kind of interesting. Where did the design for these come from? Because they're basically like shadow forms of the characters you already have, right?
Yeah, that's also something we've seen in, for instance, the Zelda games. You have Dark Link, this is kind of a shadowed version of the world, and kind of figured it would be cool to fight yourself.
It's a bit symbolic in the sense that the ultimate challenge, well, not the ultimate challenge, but a significantly good challenge would be fighting the dark versions of yourself.
Yeah.
Woohoo. The inner darkness. Wow. That's deep, guys. That's deep. But here we have Valverichibo, the final boss in the game. He, as many JRPG bosses do, has tried to ascend himself into a god, and hopefully we can beat him up before that becomes too big of an issue. This scene right here is pretty nuts. The scene after is pretty is pretty cool as well. But this fight is a pain. However, we can really lean on Curse here. So let's hope that it goes really well. I'm probably just gonna pay attention to this. So Snowcastle, if there's anything you want to say about this fight or Ichibo's character as a whole, you guys are more than welcome to while I get into the zone here.
Oh, well, we were talking about the Sharon and Iran fights earlier, us wanting to have multi-target bosses. This end boss fight sort of came out of figuring out some parts of the mechanics that made it seem cool. And you probably already noticed, but like the characters you're playing have different stances, so do the bosses. So right just now, the end boss switch stands to a more defensive one. And then the sort of story archetype character for Ikubo sort of culminates in this godlike figure where he uses the Valver tech that he's acquired so far and the knowledge from the Valver tech leading him to the memory chamber where you're at right now, leads him to become sort of a godlike creature. And then I don't know, is there anything else to add to that fight? Really, the mysticism of him becoming a god and getting those wings is sort of an incubator for, I don't know, a mini-god, a demigod?
Yeah, he's basically now as powerful as Brynas, because he's merged with this Valver being who is even more powerful than Bryn, called Mato, and now being corrupted, and even his physical appearance has changed drastically. He's kind of become even more insane than he was to begin with, and
you can also see they can spawn other players or characters, which is one of the cooler things we pulled out of the Mashriga fight as well, because this is one of the bosses we saved for the last, right? We didn't create a boss at the start of the game anyways.
no, this is one of the last ones.
So we held off on this one just to sort of try and figure out different things that would be cool on other bosses and sort of amalgamate all those cool things into the last boss fight.
Alrighty, time is gonna come up whenever he dies here. I'm hoping that it's on this turn. Oh, not quite. We don't have any way to heal Taika, so hopefully he doesn't die. We'll have to, okay. And back again should proc. We're just gonna have to wing it. Stone attack Taika. Oh no, we're gonna die. That's my bad, y'all. We're gonna have to do it again. Poison Torment kills. So close, but we got really unlucky with a damage roll right there in the middle. Sorry, Vuligin. Thank you. I knew we didn't go through what we went through last night together to give up now, right? Lunar Dragon song, man, never forget.
Always forget.
Yeah. Well, Casa, while I'm redoing this, if you would like to fill in any donations we might have, you're more than welcome to.
Alrighty, I have a $10 donation from Edward Malice that says, I knew nothing about this run, but have been really drawn in. Great commentary from both the runner and the devs, getting a ton of insight. I also have a $29 donation from Kyon Leon that says, Hey Palmer, how's your coffee craft doing? Have a great time with your hundo runs.
It's probably why I'm a little under-caffeinated, I imagine, at this point. It's probably... That's the excuse. All right, let's try it again this time. Ideally, this will go a little bit better. One thing that I'll mention now that Snowcastle was kind enough to touch on the actual lore of this character is that there are some neat mechanics, and not only this boss, but a few of them share. It's kind of like penalty mechanics, right? So in the first couple of turns when he's not in his cocoon stance, I want to abstain from using first aid on Taika, because if he gets hasted, Ichiba will immediately respond in kind by stunning that character. We really cannot afford to see that. So let us hope we have better luck. That's actually really good. Yeah, we'll curse first. We'll do this. Alrighty. Okay, so right there you see I paid for it pretty bad. Oof, this is gonna suck. But I haste procced when I went to go heal, which is a crying shame. So it kind of is a double-edged sword in that respect, where but thankfully Nart, he takes his turns so quickly that that we're not gonna really feel it that bad. It's just gonna slow this beginning of this fight down and make it a little more unhealthy. But I'm gonna lean on items more so in this than I did in the previous one. We want to curse while he's in that stance that you just saw. All right. And you can apply bleed and curse and all that stuff while he's in cocoon stance, for what it's worth. I used to think that it took, like, it would reflect all kinds of damage, but you can gouge with Aemon as well as... all right, this is a way better turn order than last time. Oh, did I just kill him? Oh, he killed himself. All right, cool, got it. Okay, so we want to do a little bit more damage at this point. This is a bad turn order, because he's going to sacrifice all these plebs here in an effort to heal himself up. All right, let's make sure that none of these two die. Nice. That was well executed. Make sure that he gets up. Make sure that he stays up. Alrighty. Whew. Sweating it here a little bit. We're actually just going to rest again. See if we can get Taika to a good spot. Okay, haste helps a lot. Getting first aid trap drop late helps a lot as well. Wow, the double turn there. And Taika's dead. Oh no. Okay, let's see what our turn order looks like. We need Nart to not die. Fuck. We might have to do this again. Yep. One more time, Bulligen, I promise. Sorry, guys, sorry. I promise it usually goes a lot better than this. I'm sure that's the first time you've probably heard that, but okay, let's see. I might have penalized myself by trying to save time previously in when I did the one last round of Suvia, it gave us just a little bit less magic than we usually have. Also, my items are a little bit more stripped than usual. I apologize, everybody watching. It usually goes a lot better, but Snowcastle, if there's any fluff you guys want to add or any sales you got going on, feel free to self-promote while I hide in my shame.
Well, as we mentioned earlier, we're really happy to be a part of this event, and thank you guys for inviting us. Earthlock is currently on sale on Steam for a little more than 50% off. And for the people who love physical copies of the games, we have a limited edition of the physical copy coming out on the Nintendo Switch through Super Rare Games. So look out for that later this month.
Yeah, physical copies are pretty neat. It's also worth mentioning, and Casa can probably help with the follow-up as soon as I'm done, but there is a prize pack, and I intentionally have gone over estimate to give you guys more opportunity to get those donations in while that prize pack is still open. That's the move. Casa, take it away, my friend.
For sure, buddy. We actually, so the prize he's talking about is the Earthlock prize pack. It is 2 comics that were released before the game. It tells you the story about that. And it's signed by all of the devs from, their name is escaping me now. Help me here, Palmer.
Snowcastle.
Snowcastle. They also love pizza, so it's okay. If you want to get into that prize pack raffle, you have to donate $10. It just has to be during this run. That's why Palmer's stalling here for you, so you got a couple more minutes to do so. Also, there's another prize we have going on. If you donate $100 throughout the entire event, you get put into our raffle for the Nintendo Switch bundle, which comes with The World Ends With You, Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, Xeno Chronicles 2, and the last one is escaping me. Octopath Traveler. So let's get those bids in there. And also, if someone just wants to throw $11,000 to get that $100,000 just before Palmer finishes, we can still get him with that 100% 3 runs with Earthlock, Crystal Bearers, and Thousand Arms. I specifically want to see Thousand Arms.
I don't.
I'd love to see a
No.
run over 100%. That'd be very impressive.
Of this game?
Yeah.
That would be pretty nuts. It would be. That's a lot of farming, my friends. All right, that's better. Let's see if we can just maintain this. Haste helps. We just don't need. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Hey! We did it! God bless. That's time, by the way. I'm sorry. Oh my goodness. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I almost spiked this microphone here, dude. It was nuts. I didn't though. I didn't. But woo! Thank you guys. Yeah, sub 340. That was what the estimate was. Yeah, see, I see it right there. Don't let anybody tell you RPG Limit Break Tech Crew is not the best there is. My goodness. But I have gone over my allotted time. I just wanted to say real quick shout-outs. Shout-outs to Earthlock. It's an amazing game. The Kickstarter backers that made it happen. But most of all, Snowcastle. Thank you guys for not only making the game, but sleeping at your office at 4 a.m. on Norway so that you could be on this call with me. Like, I'm pretty sure you guys alone bought me this No Mercy kill. So thank you guys so much. Seriously, we can't thank you enough. I think I enjoyed it. Hopefully everybody else enjoyed having you guys here as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for hosting us, and we really enjoyed watching you run through Earthlock, and we hope that everybody watching did as well.
Yeah, go buy
And
Earthlock.
We're late for work now, so we have to.
I went over estimate, so you guys got late. Tell them I'm sorry. That's my bad.
We will.
But without further ado, I think that is about it. Lily, all my friends, everybody here watching, I appreciate it. Donations, but we're good. Kick it over to you guys.
Alrighty, I'm just going to go through a couple of little donations here real quick before we head on over to a 90-second commercial. But before that, I want to thank Professor Palmer for his amazing run of Earthlock, completely underestimate. We have a $10 donation from Kino Lookalike. Audio glitches confirmed 125%. Increase your focus stat. Why would you not want that in your run? Called with the $25 donation saying we must appease the Vooligen. And with that, I'm going to put a 90-second ad, and when we come back, we'll be throwing you over to a interview with Jay Hobbs interviewing Tojju and Muttski from the Final Fantasy X run coming up next. With that, I'll be heading off, but I'll be handing you over to Alec K47. You all have a great night, and thank you for having me.
Hello, good morning, good evening, or whatever time it is by you. Alan K47 taking over on the mic. Final Fantasy X is coming up next, but first, let me throw it over to Jay Hobbs at the interview station to interview a few of the runners, a few of the many runners, who are going to be playing Final Fantasy X for you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back from the ad break. Welcome to RPG Limit Break 2019. Again, we've got a pretty special run coming up. My name is Jay Hobbs, and I am joined by Tojju and Muttski. And you guys are running, you are 2 of 8 runners for the next game, right? Final Fantasy X. I mean, how exciting is that? Just first off, like getting a run with 8 people in the marathon.
It is a pretty unique submission, I think. We've had big relays throughout the, in the past, but this one's pretty special for us, I think.
I think we're just excited. Like, obviously, we typically try to throw together some kind of co-op run most RPG limit breaks, and this was just one that I think that a lot of people have wanted to do at this marathon for a while, and so I think it's just like a really cool way to kind of showcase like an abundance of runners in the community, and also showcase like a cult favorite of the series. So.
Well, I got to jump into the obvious question right away. What is it like running a 10-hour speed run?
It's long.
I mean, this game is better than most in that it has a lot of breaks. Infamously, one runner that you'll see first up has taken a shower during the run before, so you can ask him about that if you like.
Is he doing that today?
It's like it's kind of unique in that like people don't brag about executing the run well; they brag about what they're able to accomplish during the run. I know one runner, Vacant Mind. He always mentions that he prepared an entire steak dinner during the run. I sometimes I'll do push-ups off to the side or something, kind of pass the time. Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see what people are able to do while they're concurrently running the game. So
I get that. I used to drum songs during Kingdom Hearts cutscenes in the PS2 version. That was always fun.
Yeah, the cutscenes in this game is kind of like a blessing and curse because it is a 10.5-hour speed game, so you kind of need those breaks, but you can turn it into some fun.
What I think is really awesome about the run is, as people that have run a number of RPGs and Final Fantasies, people often ask us where's a good one to start with? And although 10 is kind of intimidating in its length, it's very easy to get into. Yeah. And one of the runners with us, Flobberworm4, has compiled one of the most comprehensive.
I have heard about
speedrun guides any game has ever gotten. And so it's very reachable and very easy to access. So and I kind of like it for that element of it.
I just feel like I hear that about games where people are just so desperate to get more people running their game. Like Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy Tactics Advance is one of the best guides ever. It's really weird.
And now that it's on available on almost every platform, it's there's not an issue of getting older hardware or a specific console. You can run it on the PC.
I'm pretty sure to that end, actually, despite the length, I believe that FF10 PC is the most run category in the Final Fantasy series, if not up there. So it's very accessible, but also on the flip side, the game is, in terms of time, is only limited by how fast you can do the input. So there's definitely a lot of room for optimization. So it has a really good barrier to entry, but also the skill cap is definitely there as well.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about specifically how it's going to go down here tonight for the rest of the night. So you guys are going to be splitting it up by time, right? People are taking hour-long shifts, roughly, something like that?
More or less, yeah.
Yep. So which hours do you guys have? Either one of you kicking it off, or?
So I've got the end.
He's got the end.
I've got near the beginning.
I'll be going second.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, this is the first run of every run he and I have ever co-opted. I've always gone first, and he's always gone last. So we almost made it happen again.
Almost.
Great. Is there any notable parts about each of your sections specifically that you're looking forward to, or maybe not looking forward to? You really don't want this thing to screw you over, or something like that.
For me, it's definitely right near the final boss. It's a section called the Nucleus, and you have to go around and collect 10 little egg orbs, and there's icicles spawning everywhere. You get into a random encounter every time you hit one, so it's definitely a test of skill and also hope for some good luck on your side as well.
In my segment, because it's fairly early on, there's a number of tutorial battles where they're kind of introducing you to different abilities of characters, and immediately after is a battle with Kumari, one of the permanent party members, and there is with a certain amount of AP gain, there's actually a potential to die in the fight.
Oh, wow.
It's not a super threatening fight, but earlier in the practice room, I survived it with 4 HP.
Ooh.
So yeah,
I mean,
it's a misleadingly
Right.
kind of fight. Like it kind of could be.
It can like sneak up on you almost,
yeah.
right? Okay, that's cool. Be sure to catch those early on, and when you wake up tomorrow.
Yes.
That'll be great.
After your nap.
Yeah.
Last question for you guys, I think. Just how did this idea come together? Like you said, you do like having co-op runs, but how exactly did you get your 10 and additionally 10 now, unfortunately, down to 8 runners just to a couple of issues? But
it kind of started a couple years ago, really. There was another runner who is not here named Mafunian who had this grand idea to do a huge Final Fantasy X relay since the community is so big. Get to showcase a bunch of people, but it didn't end up happening. And then this year,
at the end of this summer, about the same time that we had submitted FF9 for AGDQ, I kind of brought it up like as a joke, like a half joke, and then it just kind of like picked up some steam, and a couple people seemed more interested, and then we were trying to decide, well, like how many people do we want involved? And that's kind of where like we were like, well, it's Final Fantasy X. It's about 10 hours.
Right.
We'll get 10 people to do it. What's today's date?
is it May 10th?
I think we might be running it on the 10th. And so that's kind of where that came. And we do want to shout out the two runners that were originally scheduled to do this with us are El Magus and Luz Belheim. Unfortunately, Luz Belheim could not be here. And so we just want to shout him out. And obviously really appreciated El Magus hopping on board. But we just kind of dispersed the time that would lapse with where they were going to be. So, but yeah, it just kind of like happened like that. It started out as kind of like a joke, but then people were like,
It is one of the most unique submissions I've ever seen. I mean, I was calling that one. I don't help in the game selection, so there's no bias here or anything. But I was calling that one before too. I was like, you're never going to get something that unique again. That was super cool. But thank you guys for being here. Obviously, there are 6 other runners for Final Fantasy X, and we will actually be hearing from them a little bit too
Not
later.
as good looking, but
you got to start off strong, though. So.
Yeah, easy to say when you guys are the ones on the mics, and then maybe they'll refute that later. But I do, before I toss it back, I do want to quickly let you guys know about some of the prizes that you actually can win if you donate during this run. So they're all displayed right in front of me. I'm not going to pick them up at the moment because I might be coming down with a cold, so I don't want to make anything gross. But for a $10 minimum donation, the Ifrit Cross Stitch is there. I believe it's actually... I believe that one is, the frame one here. The cross stitch is a $10 minimum donation, open all the way through the FF10 run, so you have roughly 10 plus hours to donate for that one. That is donated by Delver01, I believe. And the Tidus and Uniperlers are a $5 minimum donation to win the set of them, again, through Final Fantasy X. That is brought to us by Red. I'm so bad at reading this. I'm sorry. It's Red Silvers, I believe. Thank you for donating that. And we don't have it on display here, but you can also win a copy of Final Fantasy X and X-2 HD Remaster for PS4. And that is Acrodio Legend, I believe. I'm probably mispronouncing all these donors' names. I'm so sorry. But that is a $5 minimum donation to get in the running for that all the way through Final Fantasy X. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. I will let you go and get set up and everything for the beginning and the end and all that. And yeah, like I said, maybe we'll hear from some other FF10 runners a little bit later on, get some more interviews happening. But for now, I'm just going to throw it back to Alec as they get ready for this run.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for that interview, Jay Hobbs, and thank you to Tojju and Muttski for being willing to do that. Before we get ready for our actual speed run of Final Fantasy X, we're going to play one more quick Twitch ad, so don't go anywhere. We will be right back.